Go.
Regarding fish and chips, in Leeds it's between £9.50 and £12.75.
Whitby, how much is fish and chips?
3 of us, fish, chips, peas, I think one of us carry sauce, 3 cans of pop, just short of 70 quid.
£70? That's 23 quid a head, man. Even my maths does that. Very quickly, a voice note. Campbell in Scotland, go.
Up here in Banff in the northeast of Scotland, we can get a fillet and a half of haddock with a regular chips for £8 and 10 pence, and it's by far and away one of the best chippies I've ever had.
Kenneth in Surrey, fish and chips, go.
Fish and chips in Ascot, about half a mile from where you used to live, will cost you £12 and 60 pence. Great show. Keep up the good work.
That's why I moved, because you were living there. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
Couple of weeks ago.
How much? Where'd you get it from?
I think it was about 40 quid. It was in the Ivy.
Honestly, you really are. For any of you who think he's a man of the people, I nearly said you're a...
Keeping it real.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 6. I am, of course, Mike Graham. This is the home of common sense, the world headquarters of it. We're going to be talking an awful lot about it this morning, but I can tell you this morning's a very special show because we have got, as I call him, the world's most expensive newspaper reviewer, the one and only Mr. Jeremy Kyle.
I love this.
Very good morning to you.
This is great.
Isn't it great?
Can I just point out how amazing the service for breakfast is this morning? I haven't been up this time for a while, so I sort of set my alarm for like 10 to 5 in the hotel.
10 to 5, easy enough, yeah.
Phone goes 10 to 4. Your amazing producer, Christian, let's give him a shout out. He obviously pocket dials me and then realises he doesn't say morning, Jess, sorry, he just goes, puts the phone down. So I've been up 4 days for this.
Yeah.
So
well, listen, you're looking very fresh.
I don't know how.
I mean, yeah, we did a show here until 7 o'clock last night.
Last night
which was going brilliantly because, I mean, the big story today, as it was yesterday, as it will continue to be, I think for the rest of the summer, is the migrant crisis in all sorts of different ways. The front pages this morning covered in stories, different stories about it. The front page of the Daily Mail, asylum seekers gambling away taxpayers' cash, an exclusive by the political editor Jason Groves. In the past year, over 6,000 migrants used government-issued cards loaded with £50 a week at betting shops and casinos, right? Unbelievable. The Sun front page, even more amazing. A picture of a guy taking a mattress into the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. Posh hotel taken over for migrants. 4-star fiasco. Britain's borders fiasco worsened last night when the Home Office took over a 4-star hotel that cost tourists up to £425 a night. Meanwhile, you followed up yesterday on the whole Essex police fiasco, which is the fact that the Chief Constable of Essex said, I will not be resigning. This is not a resigning matter. It's not all about me.
Are we all right to call him on breakfast what we called him on drive?
Absolutely right.
Benjamin Julian Harrington, now affectionately known as BJ Harrington.
BJ Harrington.
Extraordinary.
What a plank.
I mean, I don't understand... Yeah, what a plank. Yeah, he's done for next week.
He is.
I don't understand where we're at. I mean, first of all, let's go to the Mail, right? The asylum seekers gambling away taxpayers' cash. So on the card they're given by the government...
Right, 50 quid, 70 quid a week.
Have the government done a deal with bookies that you... Because I don't know. I mean, I used to bet a bit. I didn't know that you could go into a bookies with any sort of card and go, I'll have 25 quid each round that favourite to rip and make. Will you? Is that all right? And they go, oh, yes, so there must be an agreement that you can use that, right?
It must be. I don't even know. We'll get into that. We'll find out about it. Other stories, Emmanuel Macron and his wife are suing Candice Owens in America, his wife Dave. Yeah, exactly. Or Marshall. Because apparently people have said that she's not a woman. in the many ways that we would suggest that she is. And
There
she's
have
actually
been rumours.
a bloke.
Well, they are
All I want to
suing.
know about is the fake hand, you know, the one that moves like that.
Is it hers?
Anyway, is it hers? We'll
Has
come
she
back
got
to
a
that.
third hand?
It's a third hand, yeah. Also, Meghan Markle's Netflix disaster, $100 million down the tubes. And we got so much to talk about this morning. We are, of course, at the home of common sense. It is Morning Glory. Let us get it on. So welcome to the first of many very fascinating couplings. Me and Jeremy Kyle doing some great things. The last time we were together like this was when there was a disaster in the building and all the power went out. And you tried your very best to kibosh the emergency
Well, we ended
studio.
up downstairs on another radio station in a cubbyhole, and every producer,
Times Radio,
Christian, wasn't it?
Very posh down
Sorry?
there. Times Radio,
Yes.
very posh down
They
there.
looked at me as if I'd gone into their house on Christmas Day and peed on their kids when I walked down there. No, it's like the BBC.
They
to
didn't
me.
like it, did
No.
they?
So we're in a broom cupboard, aren't
Yeah.
we? Our boss is like, just leave these two.
Yeah.
This doesn't matter. We've got no news, no jingles,
Yeah.
no calls,
Nothing.
no texts, nothing.
Yeah.
See all these producers going, what's going to happen? We just spoke for 179 minutes.
Something like that.
That's what
But you
it
did
is,
knock two glasses of water over the controls.
I don't know. I am known as a clumsy man, so they've basically told me to be really careful this morning.
Yeah, there's your coffee. Keep it over there. Police not ready for the summer of unrest, it says on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Police have said that basically if there is a problem, if there are riots over the course of the summer, which a lot of people are now predicting there will be, even the government are saying it, the police are saying, oh, we're not ready. We haven't got enough police and we don't know what to do. What's happened to the police service in this country?
The thing about that is, do you remember Southport, which was appalling?
Yeah.
We spent months, didn't we, before that, hearing about how the police had been cut, there was no bobbies on the beat, how there was no space in prisons, there was no space in court, there was a backlog of 3 years.
Yeah.
When everybody who protested, who, according to Starmer, was far right, and there's the issue, on television, the police took to the streets. They were arrested and tried and thrown in jail within 24 hours.
Yeah.
I would respectfully suggest... I mean, I blame the Tories as much as Labour for this.
Yeah.
This started with Theresa May. The way that you create a network that deals with crime is you have bobbies on the beat giving intel to each other. They've obviously stripped it back. But then you look at what happened at Epping.
Yeah.
How can they send 9 police vans or something? They must have... Do they have an agenda? And by the way, summer riots. Why are the government not over this?
Yeah.
Why are they not saying that's unacceptable? The Epping story to me is frightening, chilling.
It's the Epping story is the problem that Britain has in a nutshell. You know, it says here that the rioting that broke out in the wake of the Southport killings last year has exposed the deep fragility within our public order policing system. Well, do something about it then.
Well, just keep the public in order.
That was last year. And this guy, B.J. Harrington, as you call him, you know, he is not only the chief of the police in Essex, he's also the guy in charge of all public order policing in England and Wales. So he's
That's
the
frightening.
boss of all of that, right?
Yeah.
We're going to play a couple of clips. I know you've seen these already from yesterday,
cool.
but this is when he said, he had a press conference yesterday where he basically said, I'm not resigning, this is not about me. He was accused of busing, for those of you who have been sleeping under a rock for the last couple of days, busing lefty protesters into the Bell Hotel so that they could interact with the ordinary people there who were protesting against the migrants. Have a look at this.
I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there. And of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
So he didn't bust them in, but he bust them out, right? And what they also did, which he was slightly disingenuously not saying there, was that they escorted them from the train station so that they were flanked by police, so nobody could touch them or do anything to them or talk to them. And once they got to the place where they could demonstrate against the good, hard-working folks of Epping, then they drove them away because they were in danger. Well, they were only in danger because you bleeding well took them there.
Well, that's the point. The hypocrisy. What about kettling? That's supposed to be a police tactic. You can look at that man and go, let's get this absolutely straight. I said this yesterday, is there a political ideology? Is there something going on here?
Yeah.
A bunch of people... ultimately, who live in Epping, thoroughly concerned that their kids...
Many of them
there was an
mothers,
Ethiopian
just
asylum...
mothers,
Yeah, an Ethiopian asylum seeker... allegedly, we have to say, had sexually assaulted
well,
a 14...
Well, he's been charged with it. He denies it.
Yeah,
but
you know what it's like, the legalities and all
yeah.
this. Otherwise, you get into trouble. People, 50% women, took to the thing and were upset. if you are in charge of that as a police officer or the boss of the police, why are you allowing people in masks with a completely different opinion to come in and put them there? You'd stop that.
Sure.
By bringing them in, you've created that stuff and then you bust them out. I think I could be completely wide of the mark. There's a bigger thing going on here. I think that's him making himself look like he can deal with that. Does this come from on high? Did somebody tell him to do that?
He claims, or did claim in this press conference yesterday, that the decision was made on the ground by officers at the time. They don't make that decision without being told by the bosses that you can do that if you want. There's no way.
And as you quite rightly said on Drive yesterday, and I think this is even more important, this is a man who in 2021, B.J. Harrington, said that in his mind the most serious crimes were hate crimes. He's the one who went after the ex-Alison Pearson from the Telegraph. 6 officers arrived at a house over some tweet. He's now being sued. And the most telling thing is, if you were in the community of Epping, last year, only 13.35% of crimes were solved by his thing, but his force. But he's running around doing what he's doing. Nearly 1.5 people arrested every day for hate crimes, and yet only 3% of rapes in Essex dealt with.
Exactly right.
He's a disgrace.
He is a disgrace. He also apparently thinks of himself as this kind of very woke leader who thinks the most important thing is to be an LGBT plus ally.
No, you're a police officer. Arrest criminals, you idiots.
No, I know, that's your job. But Essex Police is known to be the most woke police force in the country, right? Here's what he had to say about escorting the protesters.
Force initially said that they didn't bring anyone to the hotel, but your colleague seems to suggest that that had happened after footage emerged. Can you set the record straight then? Was Stuart wrong when he said that?
Under the law of this country as it stands, people have the freedom to assembly and to freedom of speech.
So your officers did bring people towards that hotel?
Listen to my answer. That is there is a duty upon policing to allow people to exercise their rights of assembly and protest. That's a right of this country under the Human Rights Act. People came to that of their own volition. They walked up to that protest in order to ensure that we understand the threat, manage and deal with the risks and the issues. As we did outside the hotel, as we did in the high street, we had officers there and they would have walked alongside to make sure that they understand, can intervene and prevent and detect crime. That's what happened, that's what the photos show, and that's what we did.
Yeah, so that's what you actually did. So you actually escorted them.
Listen to my answer,
right?
You sanctimonious.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly.
What a pompous, absolute prig. And I say that word with a G.
Prig.
Prig with a G.
There's an ideology.
Let's not forget that at the weekend, when Peter Blexley first made the allegation that this is what had happened
with Alex on breakfast,
they denied it. They put out a statement in which they said that anybody who was purporting to suggest that they had escorted or brought or bust or done anything with these lefty activists, that was misinformation, and you might be liable to prosecution for spreading misinformation. So they lied about it, and now they're telling the truth because they've been caught out.
And also, you can see, do you know, people say there's many things that annoy me. His answer there, listen to me, that sanctimonious man that we're talking about, that is absolutely a mirror image of what's wrong with society. People like him and Starmer believe that they're right. That is not serving the best interests of your community.
No.
If his argument
He manages to get human rights into it.
If his argument is everybody has a right to protest, I agree, but I'll flip it, right? Can you imagine if stand up to racist, pro-immigration, Palestine were there yesterday, right? Would and I'm not condoning this, but do you think that 50 skinheads with Nazis or what you know, the dreadful
people, but they have
do you
a right
think
to
that
protest?
The police would have allowed them to walk from the train station to that hotel? No, they wouldn't, and they shouldn't have.
Right.
So that's the point. So then you look at it and you go, there's something afoot here, and he just looks political to me,
He does.
Mikey.
Well,
he looks like he's got an agenda.
He's come out of this police training school, you know, which has become so woke that they don't really care anymore about, arresting criminals. All they care about is being an ally of the LGBT, Pride Alliance. All they care about is painting their, police cars with rainbow colours and making sure that they hit a few targets on diversity.
But if your shop's been burgled or you've been attacked or your back door or you know, somebody's nicked, we're not coming around because it doesn't matter.
As I'm sure you have, we've had people on this show call in and say, I had one guy call in from a corner shop somewhere in Birmingham. He said, I've had 39 cases of shoplifting.
Disgusting.
He said, I've got 39 different crime numbers. He said, the police never bother to come. They just give me a crime number straight away now. You don't even have to wait for it.
And if you said that to that guy, right, I wanted somebody at that press conference to say, you've only actually, you go on about people's rights. What about the fact you've only solved 3% of women being raped in Essex? What would he say? Oh, I'm not answering that. You're trying to make something out of this. I think the British people have had enough of it, and I've said for a long time, I think any politician misses the point if they don't wake up and realise that there is resentment, and understandable resentment.
Absolutely, and we're going to come back to that because we're going to take a little break in a minute. The 4-star fiasco on the front page. This is the Asylum farce goes on front page of the Sun. As it said, they've also got a great big piece on Ozzy, on the love of his life, Ozzy Osbourne, that is. Sharon saved me every day. And we should talk about Sharon a bit because
amazing woman.
I said yesterday we were fortunate enough to get to know her when she worked here, and what an amazing woman she was.
She loved him, man, the bones of him.
I remember, absolutely right. But one other story I want to just tease for you before we come back, and this is Angela Rayner, right? She's got a staff office, I kid you not, right, as the office of the Deputy Prime Minister, 30 people in her office, right? 30, right? And they have flown around the world so often that they could have actually gone around the world 13 times.
What are they flown around the world for?
Well, apparently they've gone to a lot of housing conferences, right? But I just want you to remember, there's only one trip that we remember that Angela Rayner made. She went to see the Pope in the Vatican, right? I didn't know that she was a particularly practicing Catholic. But she also went, if you remember, to Ethiopia. Have a look at this.
It's been an incredible experience coming to Ethiopia. The UK is committed to working with Ethiopia and the UK economy to work with the Ethiopian economy. His aspirations for Ethiopia's future. It was great to visit Ethiopia's stock exchange and learn more about how it's unlocking Ethiopia's potential. We will build on to deliver jobs for Ethiopia and the UK. The UK continues to work with Ethiopia here in the UK and Ethiopia. Ethiopia.
What on earth? I mean, I don't remember any jobs coming from Ethiopia.
From where?
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
That's EFIOPIA.
Why is there a part of me in this horrendous situation we find ourselves with this completely incompetent, idiotic Prime Minister and a front bench of a government that just don't know seemingly anything, right? No opposition apart from reform. Why do I want her to be Prime Minister?
Yeah, because
for the humour.
For the comedy value. But this is the number of miles they've flown, right? She, officials and ministers in her department of housing, communities, local government and Ethiopia, 319,872 miles they've flown.
I would respectfully suggest it's 82 miles from the House of Commons to Epping. Why don't you get off your backside and go to Ware or Canary Wharf or Diss in Norfolk, where people in this country are going, do you know what? Forget your Davros World Forum or Ethiopia. And understand what the British people want, because it's bad. I mean,
unbelievable.
She's brilliantly bad, isn't she?
She is fantastic.
Is she still with our Sam?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
I think
do you think if she became Prime Minister, she'd be given her seat back? What do you think will happen?
I don't think.
Do you think he might go to Ethiopia?
I think she might trade up if she gets into Downing Street. I think there's definitely some trading up going on there. Listen, it's 18 minutes past 6. Jeremy Carl is here, the world's most expensive newspaper reviewer. As I said, we'll see you after this.
it is blatantly obvious, as clear as the nose on the end of my face, that they were there to potentially cause an environment where crime may be committed.
Encouraged by the police who took them there.
Who should not have taken them there, who should have said, you can have your protest, but you're a mile away from the Bell Hotel.
Yeah.
Stand there, wave your placards, we're setting a time limit on it, and then you're off.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 21 minutes past 6. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock in the morning. Alex Phillips in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. Jeremy Kyle is here with me this morning. It's great
I'm
fun.
loving this.
It's great to have you here. We've got a voice note from James. Let's go.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Jezza. Now, just regarding our illegal immigration, Starmer could stop this today, Mike, if he really wanted to. He could stop this today, but he chooses not to. He chooses to ignore it. All the government do, Mike, is just talk absolute and I like how Starmer's fixing the foundations using his hairdryer. I say that's coming along lovely, Mike, isn't it? You absolute prat, Starmer. Can't stand this government, Mike. Cannot stand this government. It's terrible, Mike.
It really is. It's bloody awful. And he references the hairdryer. Now, you might not remember this clip, but this was when Starmer was talking about fixing the foundations in happier times, right? We do this a lot on this show, as we sometimes just retread some clips from old. And this is what he said. This is one of the... Starmer is one of his most weird moments. Have a look.
Fixing the foundations is like finding damp in your wall. You can paint over it and get the hairdryer out and dry it. All done that. Hope it goes away. Or you can strip it out, rip out the plaster and deal with the problem once and for all.
Yeah, your face is brilliant. What's he talking about? Have you ever taken a hairdryer to the wall?
Only when I've been in a public toilet, right? This is true, right?
Okay.
We've all done this, and the water's sprayed all over your groin.
Yeah.
And I've done the whole thing again.
Oh, yeah,
you know that when you do that to try and get so nobody thinks you've wet yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
What is that man?
He's mad, isn't he?
And you look, we were talking during the break, suddenly this story's come up on the Telegraph, and then you think to yourself, hold on a minute, how much of this is incompetence, or how much of apparently the pro-migration protest group that were escorted by Essex police is funded by the trade unions.
This is the Stand Up to Racism crowd, right? They explicitly oppose Nigel Farage's Reform UK, and they're backed by the TUC, the Trades Union Congress. So, I said this to you yesterday. I don't understand the sequence of events, right? Now, I don't know how this works. We had a couple of people telling us yesterday. Does this group Stand Up to Racism call the police and say, we're coming to Epping, would you mind escorting us to the protest? Or does it become known by the police that they're going to come? And
does
it
get known on social media?
Right.
So his defence, B.J. Harrington, would be, we were ready for them. But my argument to that idiot is, if I as a police officer or chief saw people with masks, I'd think they're probably going to cause a bit of trouble.
Yeah, right.
This plays to a rhetoric. After Southport, if you remember, I remember taking this astonishing call from this nurse. She said, I disagree with the migration situation, I disagree with the NHS, Jez, but I now can't even walk with a placard because our Prime Minister has said that anybody is far right. This plays into the narrative. I said something on Drive yesterday, don't know what you think, or the callers or whatever, maybe it's madness. I think parts of the establishment, the blob, the government, the police, institutions that I think are probably affected by woke-karateism, for want of a better phrase, are terrified that the British people have woken up and they've got a voice in Nigel Farage that's saying, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that, and I think they're kicking back, and I think this is part of it. And people will say that's conspiratorial. It's not.
No, because the reason why Nigel Farage is so popular is because people are beginning to wake up to the fact that things like the TUC and organisations like the police of Essex are actually tantamount to left-wing organisations now.
Yep.
They're no longer
The BBC, an agenda.
BBC, an agenda. They're no longer just look at even the Met Office, for heaven's sake. They're all you get the woke weather now. You get everything's red and black, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to perish in the middle of the night because it's going to be so hot.
Oh yeah, there's a hurricane working. There was a twig on the outside.
Exactly. I mean, so people have woken up to that. They're not going to take it anymore. And I could tell when watching that guy BJ Harrington yesterday.
You love that BJ.
I do. I like it. You could see that he was itching to say Nigel Farage is causing trouble. Nigel Farage is the problem.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage is the person that's making all this happen. When in fact the problem, everybody can see it, is the bloody migrants in the hotel.
Well,
That's
I should
the
also
problem.
pay a compliment to you in this show because Nigel Farage got that clip from you because you played it before anybody else. But the truth of the matter is, of course, the establishment are terrible. Might be that Nigel Farage is not the next Prime Minister. It might be somebody else. But my point is this. The British people, I think, have not found their voice even, Mikey. They've realised that they have a right. And whereas 5 years ago, if you dared to say, oh, I'm sorry, I do think we've got a problem with immigration, you're racist. No, you're not. Women concerned about their teenage daughters because male... sexually active men in hotels with no control and no vetting. I've got teenage daughters. I would be exactly the same. I'm not far right. Shove it where the sun don't shine, mate. I'm not having that.
And also, why can they not see the danger and the ridiculousness of putting these men, as you describe them, next door to a bleeding secondary school where there are young girls walking in and out, in school uniforms, and one of them gets assaulted, and then they're surprised that the people are upset about it.
That's called being a parent and protecting your kids. Isn't it?
Yeah. What sort of parent would you be if you didn't care about that? How about this from Chris in Newbury? Mike and Jezza. So BJ is in charge of all public order policing, like the Hamas-supporting marches in London, where they arrest Jews trying to counter-protest peacefully. That BJ? Because that's what happens. If you're a Jewish protester in London and you want to go up against the Palestinian mob, you get arrested. You get told
away.
You can't go near them. If you're in Epping and you're a lefty, you get escorted by the police to the point at which you can actually cause trouble. Mike and Jez, says Jeremy in Exeter, the police aren't ready for a summer of riots, really? So why bus in a load of agitators to cause just that? Something doesn't add up here. Have a great day. Yeah, people are too wise now. They understand what's going on.
This is what I'm saying. I think the British people, it's interesting when you look at politics, I think they were hacked off after the expenses scandal. I think there was, the Tories in the end, nobody was listening because it was such a lack of belief in anything. And then you had old hairdryer Starmer saying, it's going to be, I'm doing the accent, but grown-ups. He's been a cataclysm. I actually think they're so out of their depth. I genuinely think they're out of their depth.
They literally can't.
And I don't think the Tories will ever recover. And I think the Nigel Farage, and I said it yesterday, this isn't me banging the reform drum. He's speaking about the things that a majority of people in this country are concerned about, and he's brave enough to say, "Listen, I don't care if the media or legal people have a go. And look at that bloke, that copper. You're so right. He wanted to say, I hate Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is what's wrong with this country. No, you're the problem, BJ. You're absolutely symptomatic of what's wrong. I think
he absolutely is. Dan Hodges for me is the signpost of everything that's gone wrong for Labour, because Dan Hodges started a year ago, basically telling me that this is going to be a whole new broom. We're going to sweep away the Tories.
What does he say now?
He's got a commentary piece in the Mail today. Number 10 is now starting to resemble Biden's White House, with aides scrambling to justify Starmer's blunders because he's that bad. You remember this week? There's been so much happening every single day that we forget.
Too much to keep up.
Well, yeah, we forget. But basically... he said, do you remember when he was in front of that liaison committee, there's lots of houses, there are millions of them, we can put people in.
To whisper in his ear.
What?
Oi, Keir, there's 1.3 million people waiting, you incompetent
Well, you
gits.
can see even Meg Hillier
Behind
sort of aghast, looking at him going, what? What are you talking about? Everybody knows there aren't any council
People
houses.
laughed at you, and Dan makes the point this morning. I think he will be gone within a year, and I don't think that was ever thought of with a 180-seat majority. What could come after is even more frightening. But this man is not up to it. I don't know whether that's maybe all politicians aren't up to it.
Well, Dan Hodges says this. A Labour MP I spoke to recently is in despair at the Prime Minister, and this is his quote. He said, "He's insane. How can he say what he said? How can he honestly think there's huge amounts of spare housing? It's entirely mad." That's what Labour MPs are saying about their own leader.
I agree. And somebody said the other day, well, how if you've got a majority that big, would you be in trouble? I'll tell you why. Because as we count down to the election, they will look, as all MPs do, at their majority. majorities and they'll go, Christ, this man's a liability.
Yeah.
But what comes after Starmer? Wes Streeting is done.
Ethiopia.
Because Streeting. Oh, I'll sort out the doctor's strike. I'll give him 22%. I'm a genius. They want more now, you complete idiot.
Yeah.
He doesn't look good.
Wes Streeting looked a lot better before the election he does now, right?
Ethiopia. Can you imagine I'm at G7 and I'm having a chat with Ethiopia?
Yeah. And Jim says, why are we working with Ethiopia? when have they ever helped us? Labour Muppets. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It really is. But, I mean, you know, I kid you not, looking at that story about Angela Rayner's staff, why does, you know, what becomes of these people who think that they're so important? You know, Angela Rayner's had a fantastically successful career.
Yes.
Having started as a single mother, a teenage mother, she's now a grandmother at the age of 40 or something like that, right? She came from a very humble background up in the north of England.
Managed to have two houses.
Managed to get two houses and avoid the capital gains tax. Well done to her for that. But at the end of the day, you know, she's done terribly well for herself. But what the hell does she think she is, that she needs 30 people working in the office of the Deputy Prime Minister?
This
is the sort of empire building that they do, right?
But I think it feeds back exactly to what we're talking about, which is whereas criticising governments or things like that in the past, you'd be labelled.
Yeah.
I think people are going, right, so I did it the other day, like, so we've always been really good, we've always helped, we've always tried to do things. We're skin.
Yeah.
We're skin. We can't even afford the interest and the debts we got, right? We seem to help every other bugger, whether it's Mauritius...
Well, we're still sending money to Zelensky, who's now having demonstrations every night against him for being corrupt, right? We're giving him billions and billions of pounds. We haven't got them.
The Chagos Islands, the Mauritian people... are walking around for 12 months income tax-free.
Yeah.
Try telling that. Get outside the M25 corridor, people, because there are people. Try telling people who work all their lives, never had a hand out, never asked for anything, who are struggling to pay their bills, that the Ethiopia. No, Mauritians, I got that wrong, are walking around going, hey, thank you, Great Britain, we've got no income tax. What a load of... that's the problem.
I know, absolutely ridiculous.
It's such a problem.
Andy's got a voice note for us. Have a listen.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Jezza. Andy in Portsmouth. Just listening to Angela Rayner's Ethiopia speech there. Don't you think it's very akin to Rachel Reeves' I'm an economist speech? I mean, how many times did she mention that she was an economist? They're all a bunch of clowns, in my view. Anyway, have a good day, fellas. Keep up the great work.
He sounds how I feel.
Andy, exactly right. So many people...
I'm off in my van to work 12 hours, but why the hell should I bother? Because actually... and that's the point for me, right? We can laugh at... I mean, most of the Labour front bench have gone from University Students' Union to think tank to union...
To having an office with 30 people.
I know. I mean, you know, but I don't think the quality of politicians is any good across most areas, to be honest. But that man there sums it up. Out of bed... say goodbye to his kids and his wife, probably. He'll do 12 hours. He'll come home and he'll think, you see those blokes on the street corner smoking, having a bet or having a drink? They've done nothing all day and they're getting more than me. Why am I doing what I'm doing?
Incredible. We'll come back to that, because how on earth are they getting this card that they can bet £50 a week in betting shops and casinos? But let's face it, we are in a terrible, terrible state in this country. But luckily, just to remind you, we've got somebody really, really good in charge of the Exchequer.
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
Really? OK, then.
How many times can you say economist or economics in one name?
Yeah,
she's also very, very, very low rate, isn't
hopeless.
she? Yeah.
Hopeless. Did you see her this week? She was in front of the House of Lords Committee talking about... She had her head in her hands. She was trying to explain... It was like somebody in an economics lecture at university, when I did it many, many years ago, trying to explain macroeconomics when the professor had asked them to explain it. Have we got that one as well? All right, let's have a look at this. Here we go.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
I'm not, you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but, you know, we do what we do for a living.
Yeah.
Do you not meet so many of these or watch so many of these politicians, and excuse me, my brother, and think you are crap? You are not even...
No.
You're incompetent, but you can't even speak.
You can't even speak in public.
There's no passion, there's no understanding, you haven't got your brief, you haven't got an argument, you're just some basically... just really amateurish, not very good person.
She sounded there like she's reading from a textbook, but not really quite understanding the context of anything that she's saying.
And they wonder why Nigel Farage is gaining traction, because you agree with him or don't agree with him. It's passionate, isn't it?
Well, also, he does what we do. He can jump up on a stage and just talk, you know? You know, like when like we were saying, when that time when everything fell over, we had
I
no
haven't
power.
dropped anything, by the way.
Well
so
done.
far. We're half an hour in.
Hang on,
Coffee's
don't
fine.
tempt fate. God's sake, we've kept you quite far away from all the controls.
No, you haven't. There's a control thing there. I could blow the whole thing up.
No, but you know, the thing is, you know, we talk for a living, right? So that's what we're supposed to do. If you're the Chancellor of the Exchequer, you also have to talk for a living.
And
you
add
also
up.
have to be able to add up. You also have to be able to explain economics to people. She can't explain
She doesn't understand it.
how to make a ham sandwich.
And also, actually, just flipping it deliberately, all this stuff about asylum seekers and B.J. Harrington yesterday in Epping, not a word from our Home Secretary yesterday, by the way. Nothing from Yvette Cooper.
Well, we
Mrs.
spoke
Balls.
to the woman who is actually the mother of the Reform councillor that we speak to, Jamie. What's his name? Can't remember his last name. Jamie McIver. So we had her on the show. You know, the woman who was on the clip saying, "Look, we're mothers. We just want to make sure everything's fine." I said to her, "Look, if you could have one, beseeching word with Keir Starmer, what would you say to him?" And she said, just please come out and see us. Come and see us, talk to us, listen to what we're concerned about, understand why we're doing this, understand why we think it's a bad idea to house these young men, single men, in a
listen to the public.
In a hotel next to a secondary school. Come and talk to us. Yvette Cooper, Keir Starmer, nothing from them. They haven't got the nous. Can you imagine? I mean, even Boris Johnson, for all of his faults, would have been down there to talk to the people and say, all right, what's going on? What are you worried about? To try and reassure them. Instead of which, Starmer hunkers down, pretends it's not happening, and starts talking. You know what he's doing now? He's got another state visit from Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, who's come here. And people are going, what are you talking to him for?
So you're going to make a trade deal that probably won't benefit us, but you're missing... But that
you're missing the point.
That's window dressing, and I think politics is changing, and that sums it up brilliantly. If you don't touch, listen to, visit, show it, even if you disagree with the people in Epping, be big enough to go there and listen to what they're saying.
Exactly.
Get their respect that way.
Get out of the bleeding bubble, for heaven's sake.
I don't think... The biggest lie that this Labour government has given, in my mind, was when, he kept saying working... I mean, the growth was one thing, but it's for working people. I say this all the time on Drive, right? I spend a lot of time in Newcastle, you know that. This is north of Watford Gap, peeps, right? These are working-class people who haven't got a moment for the Labour Party. No. They haven't got They say they don't care about us. No, they don't care about us. They care about London and their bubble.
Yeah.
Frightening.
I mean, the only reason why... I mean, if you remember back in 2019 when Labour got completely trounced with Jeremy Corbyn at the helm, the only seat they won was in Putney. One of the most middle-class places in Britain, where everybody drives around a Range Rover and they've all got houses worth about £5 million quid. But Mikey, that's the new Labour Party.
Shall I tell you how bad it is? And I never thought I'd say this. I would spend my life disagreeing with everything that Jeremy Corbyn stands for. But at least he had the balls to stand up and lay out what he wanted to fight on. Yeah. He got more votes than Keir Starmer.
Yeah, he did.
Love him or loathe him, and I loathe the man. Yeah. He stands by what he damn well believes. Yeah. This one is vacuous, I think.
It totally is. Totally is. Another voice note from Liam. Let's go.
Morning, Mike and Jezza. Liam from Kent. So, we've got people protesting against Zelensky. We've had all the Afghans coming over here. We've got the immigration problem. We've got people protesting every other night. I would say the Labour Party are doing a really good job. A really good job of everything up. You can fill in the blank. Have a great show, guys. Love hearing you both in the morning. Take care.
Liam, thank you very much.
I love the fact that your listeners, right, do everything they can to say any word that's not allowed.
They do.
It's brilliant.
It's fantastic.
I love it.
They're brilliant. It's my birthday, says Toddy. I'm 54. Yes, younger than you, Jezza. Cheer me up and tell me this is a bloody dream. I can stop the boats in my sleep. Great show. Love talkTV. Ed from Ducklington, West Oxfordshire.
Is he Toddy?
He says he's got a hotel right next to him.
Is he called Toddy?
His nickname is Toddy.
This is crap. Do you think he'll have a wee Toddy later to celebrate his birthday?
Well, it'll be a chilly lot in the morning.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's 80,000 people that have got these cards which they can gamble on. 80,000.
So what? They're given. So when you arrive,
a card, yeah, they give you a phone, they give you a blanket, they give you a card.
So they give you a phone?
They give you a phone, yeah.
With how much credit on it?
Well, who knows? But they get. I mean, we've seen.
You have to go to O2 and queue up like I did for 4 hours.
We've spoken to people. When they get to the hotel, they have somebody offering them. They can have a Samsung phone or an iPhone, depending on which one they wish to choose.
What the hell is the point of going to work, man?
I don't know.
And you get a card, but there is something about this card we want to find out because.
Hold that
gambling organisations.
Yeah.
How are you allowing them to trade this?
I know. I don't know. We'll come back to it though. Because we've got a break. Otherwise, Christian's going to kill me. It's 6:40. It's me. It's Jeremy Carl. It's Morning Glory. What can be better, quite frankly?
They don't know what the they're doing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This project has always been about fixing the foundations of our country.
Fixing the foundations of our country.
By going to Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. Morning, Mike, says David. He says, I'm sick and tired of the way this country is being run. The waste of our hard-earned taxes is criminal, and I'm no longer willing to sponsor these idiots. I've decided to close my business and retire early so that I no longer contribute to their folly. I'm bloody angry about what is being done to our wonderful country. I'm getting a lot of these messages. A lot of people who are self-made, run their own businesses, are just packing up and either moving abroad or just saying, I'm just shutting it. I'm just not going to take part anymore.
So this, we'll come to power and we're going to create growth by bringing in that national insurance and screwing small and medium-sized businesses. People like him are shutting their businesses. People lose jobs. The wealth has gone. These people are idiots in power because people who are successful are leaving this country. They pay more tax than other people. That goes to the exchequer. This is just, to me, it's madness. Madness.
I've got somebody,
hold on, we got one.
Somebody called Olivia, who's obviously going through this Daily Mail story with a fine-tooth comb. It says these cars, these cars that are being used in casinos, right? Apparently they're designed not to be used online, but they can be used to withdraw cash inside a casino. Right? So the migrants are going, well, we can't actually order anything on Amazon. We can't actually buy some new clothes, but we can go to a casino and withdraw cash from the casino cash desk.
So let's have it straight. When they say we're going to Great Britain because we've family there, it's because there are bombs raining on our head.
No.
It's because we're wiping their ass and giving them phones and cards to gamble with and allowing them to get away. It's terrible, man. And for all the people who will go, not listening to this, but people will say to me, it's just wrong. You're being very unfair.
Yeah.
Try telling that to your average Briton.
Right, who can't afford to go to a casino, by the way, because they haven't got any spare money. Here's another one for you, right? This will cheer you up.
Good.
Page 2 of The Sun.
Yep.
Bonkers UN court ruling. Countries could soon be able to sue each other for climate reparations after a bonkers court decision. That means it's your fault, right, that down in Ethiopia,
I can't do this
it's a bit
anymore.
hot now, right,
Yeah.
because of what you've been doing in the 18th century up in Lancashire, right, with the mills and everything. So basically, the International Court of Justice says now poorer nations can launch multi-billion-pound compensation cases against rich countries like Britain.
What? Because why?
Because it's our fault.
What have I done? What are we going to apologise for now?
Well, because we pushed all that horrible sort of industrial revolution smoke into the air.
And slavery and everything else that's wrong with the world.
And so the reason that the world is now dying is our fault. Yeah.
So should we have some more people that are dying coming? Because we're skint anyway. Why don't you just all come? Because we're all screwed anyway.
Yeah, absolutely right.
This is that idiot. I mean, I fear this front bench, but he is...
He really is. I've got a couple of clips to show of him, right? Here he is talking about energy bills, because he's still telling you, right? He's still telling you this BS that the energy bills are going to go down. Have a look.
Is that £300 off people's energy bills still a firm commitment from this government?
Look, we said we would cut people's bills by up to £300, and that remains a commitment. It was based on independent modelling. The key thing is that what we need to do is move to a system that can cut bills for good. And the way to do that is with the lower wholesale prices that renewable energy will bring.
So it's a commitment to reduce your bill by 300.
Independent modelling.
Yeah, independent modelling, meaning it's basically made up.
Yeah.
It's not true.
So when you came to power and you said that energy bills were going to go down and they've increased, the answer that he gave then, if we cut through the BS, was we're trying to find a way of reducing bills, and we believe that something that's going to cost billions of pounds that we haven't got is going to at some point achieve that, by which time you dipstick will be out of power and it'll all be reversed.
And also, only just this week, when they announced that they were starting work on Sizewell C, which, by the way, they've been working on for 2 years, so it wasn't even the Labour Party that started it, they said the bills are going to go up because we have to subsidise the new nuclear power plant we're building. So he's just lying. They just lie now.
But I think the greatest line ever, and I quote you every day, is when you said on this show, so let's just assume that, although we've got really low emissions compared to the rest of the world who don't give a toss, that we get to net zero.
Right.
And you said on this show, I was driving, somebody drove off the road. What happens if we get there? Do we get a medal? We've achieved it now. What do we do afterwards? Are we aiming for a different target? It's ludicrous.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
at all.
I'm still going to use deodorant. You can sod off, millipede. I don't care.
Even in
I don't want to
Ethiopia,
stink.
It will still be hot. It will still be hot there. Now, but have a look at this. This is the creepiest Smile of the Week award, right? This is Millipede yesterday, after he was asked about the bills. It says he's still got lots to do.
We consider ourselves an industrial policy department now, not just an energy policy department. So delivering on the promise of good jobs across the country, which the investments I've talked about will make possible, and making sure these are good jobs with decent wages and strong trade unions. And then fourth, internationally, working with other countries to keep momentum driving forward on the road to COP30 and beyond. So, I think a lot done, a lot to do, as a slogan I used in an earlier stage of my life.
So what was
Look
that?
at his face.
What was that? What, when he was
leader of the Labour Party? Let's not forget.
When it was disastrous.
There was some, and
the stone.
When he was, the Ed Stone, which is still somewhere down in Hastings in a warehouse. Right?
I will be crap.
Yeah, 10 commandments of nothingness. When he was, don't forget, Environment Secretary under Gordon Brown, he was the guy that told us all to buy diesel cars.
Did he?
Diesel cars are much more energy friendly and environmentally friendly.
Oh, he's changed his opinion then?
Yeah. Now, if you've got a diesel car, you must be taxed up the wazoo to the point where you can't actually spend any money at all.
Wazoo?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, but that ridiculous kind of gurn at the end, lot to do, still got a lot to do.
To do that
What's wrong with him?
That man's in charge of it's just sanctimonious and self-serving. I wasn't saying to people, what are you actually telling me and what are you trying to do?
What are you doing? Exactly right. We've got a break again. We've got a voice note from Johnny. We're going to talk about Meghan Markle coming up next.
Tony from Bradford here. Great show as usual, and it's great to see Jeremy with you, Mike, together. I hope this continues. Look, my blood is boiling. I've had enough of this country. Every time I wake up, you think it can't get any worse. I put the news on, I put talk on, and what happens? It does get worse with these clowns, these socialists. I just can't stand it anymore. What the hell is going on?
I know. This is a question on everybody's lips. What the hell is going on? What's Keir Starmer doing? When's he going to come out and actually talk to the people? When's he going to fix it? It's a nightmare. 6:49.
There is absolutely no excuse on this earth for why we are where we are 1 year into more than a year into a new government. This administration had plenty of time to prepare proper solutions to stop the boats. What's happened, in fact, as everybody knows, is that there's been a multiplier. Instead of stopping the boats, even more than ever are coming over. And for the government now to say, oh gosh, you know, things are looking a little bit hairy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. Jeremy Kyle is here.
So
for those
nice
of you
to
who are
be
just
here.
joining us, it's been brilliant. We've got another 10 minutes to go. This from Graham came in earlier from Bushy. He says, to get in so early, did Jeremy stay at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf last night?
Yeah.
Well, that's the place where they're on the front page of the Sun carrying a mattress in. This is the other thing, right? If you've got a hotel, why do you need to take a mattress into a hotel?
Well, it's obvious.
Surely
to cram as many into the rooms as possible. There is, by the way, a sauna, a gym, a table
I've actually
tennis
stayed there. I stayed there years ago, yeah. But it wasn't great, I have to say. I mean, they must have upped it a bit.
Oh, I do think they need to up it a bit for these poor migrants.
I was shall we say, between marriages, and I was staying there with a very good friend. The
reason you were between marriages.
I managed to get the Daily Mirror to pay for it.
Did you?
Yeah, because we were working in Canary Wharf in those days. But it was very hot in the hotel. They couldn't control the temperature.
Oh.
And at one point, I walked down the corridor, and there was a door open, a couple of doors away from where I was, making a porn movie.
Well, what about that story we did on Plank yesterday?
Yeah, I know. That was the OnlyFans migrants, right?
I mean, obviously in a hotel, open the door and they're making a porn movie. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
It is. Let's get a voice note from Laura.
Morning, Mike. Laura in Wiltshire. How fantastic to have Jeremy on the radio this morning with you. He certainly puts a bit of caffeine in one's veins. I just wanted to say, you're talking about how totally incompetent all these politicians are. They can't even string a sentence together. Most of the people who call into your show are more articulate than they are. I'm working with a whole load of builders at the moment, and yesterday, two of them were having a cup of tea and said, do you know, if I didn't think it was too dangerous for my job and my family, I would go and protest against all of this. But they said, the police are so corrupt, the likelihood is I'd be the one getting banged up. And these are not politically sophisticated people, Mike and Jeremy. These are just ordinary blokes who work very hard and are fed up. Anyway, great show, Mike.
Laura, very nice to hear from you.
Couldn't agree with them all.
I know. But she speaks, as most people do in this country, very articulately. She knows exactly what's going on. This government is a complete disaster. Sarah says this. Morning, Mike and Jez. Sarah from Birmingham here. Honestly, I could not wait for this morning's show. Seeing you keeping the momentum going from yesterday to now see Mr. Carl with you is an absolute bonus. Wish you could both stay on air right through until the end of drive time. Well, can we do that? I mean, that's sort of.
Well, listen, we've had challenges set us before.
12 hours of broadcasting. You've done that kind of thing in the past, haven't you?
I did 9/11. He called me at 11. I was on another radio station. He called me about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We went through 17 hours.
Wow. It's incredible, isn't it?
You just got to do what you got to do, haven't you? It's not hard, is it? Going down a pit's hard.
That's right. I mean,
that's
what I say
all we
to
do is just talk.
People say to me, "You're going to retire. When are you going to retire?" I'm like, retire from what? Talking.
I think both of us would die if we retired.
Don't think so. No, let's talk about Meghan Markle. Great piece in the Sun today, pages 12 and 13.
I got it.
Because they were cancelled yesterday by Netflix. $100 million deal.
Do you want to just have a moment's silence there and hold hands or something? Because it is quite sad, isn't it?
Sad, yeah. Sussex's huge financial hit as Netflix dumps their £100 million deal. The contract will just expire without drama. There is no appetite for anything new.
Now, you know, my old man worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years. And,
you have mentioned that.
And he was slightly outspoken. And he said to me 5 years ago, he'll be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs in a number of years, and she'll be in California, right, with 2 kids. The boy is completely transfixed by one thing and one thing only. It's coming home to roost. It's all.
Well, do you remember that piece? There was a piece a couple of weeks ago, where quoting the Queen, saying that you know, unfortunately, Harry is not imbued with very much sense and not very much power. and she's got both.
Well, said it before. Probably
She
get
stitched
chucked
him
off
up.
the show. It's a two-word phrase, and the second word is whipped.
Yeah.
And that's why they got. I can't have him. I can't have her, rather.
And I love
he's
Oliver Harvey, the chief feature writer of The Sun. Brilliant intro. Like a slowly collapsing souffle, the Duchess of Sussex narcissistic cookery show has been judged a ratings flop, and Netflix has decided to pull the plug.
Is that the time for a fruit platter?
Well, do you know, it's funny you say that, because we've got it. Well, here it is.
Yeah.
The fruit platter.
You see where our rainbow is coming together here? And you don't have to do a big platter of this. You could do this with one small row for your kids for breakfast, genuinely, and it makes the morning a lot more fun. But can I just show you if you just made one? Just a little morning plate. It's a real delight in being able to be a present parent. And it's a luxury sometimes because we all have to work. We all have a lot of stuff to do, but when you can take a minute to just...
Saturday morning.
Finding the fun in those moments makes for a really sweet start to the weekend.
Yeah. Finding the fun in those moments of cutting up fruit.
A present parent. I mean, imagine this is what it's like in the Cowell household.
So I remember seeing this as one child was launching Weetabix at another child. One was having its nappy changed. Mrs. Carr was avoiding, you know, whatever those guns are that Oliver fires. I think, what? Again, a bit like our government. Are you so divorced from reality? You stupid... I mean, and for this... For me, this lot, you know, I was quite supportive about going there. They didn't want it, but they have played the game. It's all about them. She now shows on Facebook and stuff pictures of her kids. Yeah. Odious. Will never come back. And I had Matt Wilkinson last night from The Sun. Yes. Excellent. And he was saying on the Royal Exclusive that they do online that they did a poll. And he is approaching as much hatred and anger amongst British people as her.
Because people have worked out, actually, but he's worse than she is, because you expect her to be a little grasping, ghastly American, but he should know better. By the way, I'm told there's a fruit platter for you waiting outside.
I don't want it. I also say very quickly before I go, is the reason I think he wants to reconcile with his dad is because he knows that once his brother becomes king, I reckon William will strip them of their titles. I think he's got a moment for him, and I think that's absolutely spot on.
Nicola from Norfolk says, "Morning, Mike. What a dream duo this morning. I thought it was illegal to wear a face covering when on a protest march, yet virtually all of those Epping counter-protesters being accompanied by the police were masked up. What will it take? Oh, look at that. What will it take for the police to actually do their job with balance and without fear or favour?" And there you go.
Can I just say, look, can we get that? Look at that. Isn't that lovely, the way that's... I'd just like to take a moment to have a little one out there. What a lovely moment to just have a rest here with a couple of bananas and some grapes.
It just makes you smile, doesn't it?
No, it gives you wind, actually, to be honest. Fruit. I'd rather have a bacon sandwich.
I had to buy my own banana.
Did you?
Got free one. Yeah, well, I bought.
My mother-in-law ordered what she thought was 5 bananas the other day when she came to the house, and they sent 5 bunches. My wife had to make banana cake.
I've had that problem where you think you've ordered 5 bananas, they bring you 1 banana.
Oh,
I actually had a delivery from Waitrose.
I bet the migrants are getting a lot of food.
Oh, I'm sure that they've got plenty. Well, they get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They've also got, as I think I said on Plank of the Week, there's a place in Birmingham where they're staying where they get vouchers to go to the local pub and they can have lunch there. And people up there are doing their Castle Vale, I think is the name of the housing estate. People go to the pub and they say there's some migrants over there, and you see them eating, and you see them ordering food and drink, and then they pass a voucher over, and they're sitting there going, well, we can't really afford to have a dessert, so we're just going to leave.
I honestly, mate, I don't know what happens to the world. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to sit here and
Jeremy,
munch on my fruit.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, mate. Thank you so much for coming in. We must do this again. You'll just have to do it every week.
I'm very happy to do it again. And I'm going to go, but I might come back after 9 o'clock and just interrupt you again.
Yeah, do. And Christian will call you again tomorrow morning at 4.
Yeah, thank you, Christian.
Just to make sure that you're awake.
My favourite breakfast show in the land, this is. It's brilliant. I love it. Can I have the Ethiopia thing?
Ethiopia. We'll be back after the news. This is Morning Glory. See you later. We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, You can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth for this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. And what about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park, narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide ride surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed whack the rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine the Scouts to say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 3 minutes past 7. I'm Mike Graham. It is, of course, Thursday, the 24th of July. Jeremy Kyle has just left the studio. He spent the first hour with us. Absolutely brilliant. Having a look at all the papers and all the stories this morning, ranging from everything that happened throughout the course of the day yesterday with the Essex police, the fact that their police chief, B.J. Harrington, denied that he was going to resign, denied that he had bussed people in to a protest, denied that he had given special treatment to lefty activists, even though it's very plain to see that that's precisely what happened, that it's precisely what he did, and that he, as one of the wokest police chiefs in the entire country, has got himself in a right old mess. He says he's not going to resign. I beg to differ. I think that Mr. Harrington will be out of a job probably before the end of this month, which gives him literally about a week. We've been talking as well about the migrant story on the front pages this morning. 4-star fiasco, it says, on the front page of The Sun. A posh hotel in Canary Wharf taken over 4 migrants. Fury as the escort for lefty mob goes on in Essex, and more food app illegals caught. It is a 4-star fiasco. Front page of the Daily Mail is even worse for the Home Office and for the government. Asylum seekers gambling away taxpayers' cash. It turns out that in the past year, over 6,000 migrants have used government-issued cards loaded with £50 a week at betting shops and casinos. What on earth is going on? We've also got the Daily Telegraph front page here, which says the police are not ready for a summer of unrest. So if it does come, they will not know how to deal with it. According to the chief of the police, the Police Federation, I think it is, writing for the Daily Telegraph, Tiff Lynch is her name. She says the police are being pulled in every direction, forced to choose between keeping the peace at home or plugging national gaps. She says basically it would be comical if it wasn't so serious and so familiar. Local commanders are once again being forced to choose between keeping the peace at home or keeping the peace in other places, right? The problem is that they just don't know what they're doing. They are being hit by cuts, and they have also got the wokeists running them, so they're not actually doing their jobs as they should be doing them. The migrant tracker there saying 23,534 migrants have arrived in this country so far in 2025. There'll be loads coming over today. The weather is rather good. Also, a couple of other stories going on. The Macrons are suing US podcaster Candice Owens because apparently they're fed up with the idea that everybody keeps saying that Mrs. Macron, who's 72 years of age, is not in fact a woman, she's a bloke. So apparently they're not happy about that. They're going to try and reclaim some money. And the striking doctors, front page of the Times, hit them in the pocket, says the chief of NHS England. That's the only way that they will understand that they can't go on strike. And the Sun, and we'll be talking to Ross Clark about this a little bit later on, have unmasked the militant behind the doctors' strike. Once compared Brexit to rape. And the man is so deranged that he also praised the guy in America, if you remember, who shot dead the pharmaceutical boss some months ago. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We've got lots to talk about. Let's get it on. So, it's time to talk to James Price, former government advisor. Let me just read this to you. Afternoon, Mike, listening in from Sydney, Australia. I think it was a wonderful discussion to have Jeremy on the show this morning, and you two make a great double act, just like Lauren and Hardy. Take care, says Jonathan, one for the teenagers there. And as a Brit, says Chrissy from Teesside, we are nothing more than slaves now, cash cows, oppressed and suppressed, being constantly gaslit by dishonest, corrupt establishment. I feel so helpless and also frightened for my family. Every day is a new extreme concern. And I think that's the way we all feel now. James Price is here. James, very good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good of you to give that young whippersnapper, up-and-coming star, Jeremy Kyle, a run this morning. I think he'll go far.
I think he will. World's most expensive newspaper reviewer, as I call him. But, yeah, it's incredible to work with him this early in the morning, and it was great fun. But, you know, there is this sense that we all have of kind of ongoing and sort of continuing angst. You know, people are telling me every single day, we've had enough, we're fed up, we don't understand why we're working. You know, this morning you see stories of, you know, a four-star hotel, £425 a day being taken over by migrants. You see that the Daily Mail's got a story saying that these asylum seekers are now using these cards that they're given to gamble at casinos and betting shops. And people are going, what am I even bothering working for? Why am I actually bothering to put myself through the mill, pay tax in the way that I do, only to be completely and utterly frustrated to see that other people are getting everything for nothing?
Yeah, absolutely right. One of the problems when you're in government is no matter how well planned briefed you think you might be, you just have stuff coming at you all the time, and it's hard to see beyond the end of your nose. And that's doubly, triply, quadruply hard if you're a Labour Party who doesn't actually believe in anything and doesn't actually have any kind of ideology to help you out. So when you've got a scenario like this, where this is a really bad story and it's really thorny with all the kind of legal issues that have led us up to this, and we've talked about those legal issues, Mike, before a lot at this point, the ECHR and the lefty lawyers preventing us from being able to deal with any of it. So you've got Labour with it right here, struggling to actually come up with any permanent long-term solution. And the problem is that the public can now see that. They're smart enough to understand that these guys don't have any kind of long-term solution. Right. Their solution to Epping was, people are protesting because they don't like it in this hotel. I know. Let's just go and move them somewhere else.
Right.
That's not going to be a long-term solution. And there are now so damn many of these people who are here. And, of course, literally hundreds coming every day, hundreds more coming every day, that pretty soon this is going to be an issue that afflicts every town, probably every village, right across the country. And unless your solution is anything other than we're going to deport all these people and get them out, then you're going to see real anger, the likes of which we haven't seen before.
Exactly right, because people will continue to demonstrate. There's now several points around Britain which are flashpoints, which you might call them that. Dis in Norfolk. We actually had a call from somebody from Dis on Monday before the people actually started revolting outside the migrant hotel. And the reason for that is that they said, look, we've had this migrant hotel in Dis for a while. It's not a big town. It's not a huge city, but it's very disruptive. But up to now, they've kept it to kind of women and children. But they've moved all the women and children out, and now it is male only, and it is people that we don't like to see wandering around in the town, and they're outside demonstrating. The police are turning up, and of course the police, under the guise of people like B.J. Harrington, as we call him, the head of the Chief Constable of Essex Police, you know, they think the problem is the demonstrators who might be far right, as opposed to the problem's actually the migrants.
Well, we know that the government's definition of far right includes people who watch Michael Portillo's Railway Journeys. That was in a leaked Home Office document. People that watch Morning Glory with Mike Graham are definitely on the prevent list at this. Those of us who contribute are probably being watched as we speak as well. That's what their definition of far right is. And we've seen actually what it is, as you say, it's just mums and dads and brothers and sisters and people who are just worried about these people and the stories that we're hearing, the alleged sexual assaults, the hanging around outside primary schools and all the rest of it. And again, the government will at some point, maybe with the breather of this summer, some of them going away and thinking, we need a long-term solution. I know what it will be. Let's just assume that all of these people, we're not going to be able to get rid of them anyway because the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 3, grants them a right to a family life. We'll say, well, they're going to have to stay anyway. So I'll tell you what, everyone who comes here, we'll just give them all a passport, right? And then, they'll be allowed to have some social housing as well. We'll get them out of the hotels that way. Keir Starmer said a few days ago, there's loads of housing around. So maybe they'll buy these guys all houses and outcompete the rest of us who might want to own our own home one day or outcompete us on the social housing list. And then they'll start saying to us, look, these people are just as British as you and me. And if you don't like having this goat herder who's been here for 5 minutes next door to you, you're a racist, you're going on a watch list, and maybe you're going to prison. And I can't see the British people taking that lying down, quite frankly.
No, I mean, I've never heard people so angry. I've been doing this job a long time, and we've been through all sorts of, various different crises. We've had the banking crisis of 2008 that I was around for, the Brexit crisis, when we voted for the referendum in 2016, everything in between, the Olympics, all the trouble that surrounded various different bombings, 7/7, all of that. I've never seen people this, quite frankly, pissed off, and I'm saying that, and I apologise to anybody who doesn't like that language, but I think it's fair at this time of the morning because people are. I've never seen it, and we're a very resilient nation. But we literally, when by the time we get to this point, we're not going to put up with it any longer. And if this government tries to introduce new taxes to pay for one, all of these migrants who are now living for free in this country, and two, more money to Zelensky, who's now got his own people demonstrating against his corruption, they're just going to say no.
Yeah, well, there's that Kipling poem, isn't there, about the English beginning to hate. They didn't like it, they take to it quite late. But through the day, the English begin to hate. And I think that the real horror of this, you mentioned things like 7/7, which was an evil attack done against us, despite very brave and valiant security services and MI5 and MI6 and all the rest of it. And, we've got a long, sad history of having to deal with terrorism like that. I think and going and slashing up one of these dinghies, and it can't get here. Right? You don't even need to deploy, one of the world's greatest, most powerful naval forces into the English Channel to stop it. It's the fact that Richard Hermer, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, and Starmer himself, genuinely, in their heart of heart, the only thing they actually want, it starts to make a lot more sense. And I don't say that lightly. No. Because I'm sure that the millions of people who
happened over the weekend.
If you're not at the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. The communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation of that view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and this is important that within the laws of this country, that Essex police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans.
Astonishing that people like this are in positions of power and leaders. This guy, by the way...
So that we could warn each other when we were up in the trees about the presence of snakes being nearby.
Yeah.
And I think we're very lucky that we have that language skill right now, because you look at this oily, slithering little man, and this is exactly the sort of person you want to watch out for. He talks about, the communities caring about this stuff. He is someone who is, as you say, allowing hard left, violent activists, frankly, if they were in America, they'd be called Antifa, coming in and starting riots and fighting, and allowing decent, honourable, ordinary people, mums and dads, as we talked about before, to be traduced and to be slandered as being far right. And I think that's absolutely disgraceful. You say you're shocked by this, Mike. Unfortunately, there are so many people like this who run institutions of the state these days, and that's exactly why all of these institutions are losing legitimacy. They just don't have, as we talked before, about a kind of long-term solution to this. What is the long-term solution to stopping the violence? You're just going to lock up all the decent British people who say they're worried about having, third world fighting age males being forcibly moved in next door to them? Because I think there's tens of millions of people in the country, many tens of millions, who don't want them here. And they are going to stop recognising the legitimacy of the state if that's what you're going to do to them. And then we have real societal breakdown. And I don't want that to happen. I want law and order. and I just want these people who are coming here illegally to be sent back somewhere else.
Exactly right. And the police are saying on the front page of the Telegraph today that if there is a summer of disorder in some way, shape or form, they won't be able to cope with it. And I think they're absolutely right. And they've got the bit between their teeth now, because they can't keep going to Epping and going to Diss and going to Canary Wharf. And that's only the 3 starting points at the moment, you know, which could become a sort of ballooning episode where you've suddenly got not 3 but 30 different hotels where people are going to be demonstrating outside. Because, you know, as you've said before, we are a very tolerant nation, but the tolerance has run out now. And everybody that you talk to, even those who maybe 2 years ago would have said, yeah, well, you know, we don't mind taking a few migrants, you know, we might as well take our fair share. Those kind of conversations were being had. I always said, no, we don't take our fair share. We've got too many people here already. We're a very highly densely populated country. Forget about France and Germany and how many they take. We're too small to take any more. But everybody now is exactly as you say, wanting to get rid of the people who are already here and certainly stopping any more from coming, because, you know, we simply don't have the bandwidth anymore.
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about David Hume before, who doesn't get enough of a run-out, famous Scottish Enlightenment philosopher, who talks about you can't derive an ought from an is. Yeah. What he means by that is you don't have a kind of moral obligation to do something that you physically cannot do. And we cannot take in any more of these people. These people are so alien culturally to British values. People have been taught, actually here, we don't go around groping people. Here, we don't, when you're given someone else's money to try and survive, go and casino, gamble with it and things like that. Yeah. Right? The struggle it's going to take to try and integrate these people, given the tools we've got and how foreign and alien they are to us, is impossible. So we don't have an obligation to do this. And I think your point about the police is really, really important. People will remember, so almost exactly a year ago now, the horrors at Southport. Yeah. And in the review that happened, His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary did a review into what happened at Southport, where they admitted the police weren't prepared for it. And that was one fairly small happening. Yeah. What we learn and what protesters will learn from this is that if you kick up rightly and peacefully enough of a stink, as they did at Epping, they might be doing it at Diss, they'll start doing in Canary Wharf even, it doesn't have that many people living in it. What the people will learn is if you protest enough and loudly enough and fastidiously enough, then people will get moved around. So what's going to happen, as you say, it won't be 3 places, it'll become 30 places it's happening all at once. Then it'll be 300 places happening all at once, because these people have already been threaded through every little bit of our green and pleasant land. And at that point, you have police forces totally overdrawn. Does the army need to get brought in just for pure manpower concerns? And then you have a total and utter breakdown of law and order, all because English people have had, or British people, I should say, have had their tolerance snapped at this point. That is not a country we want to be in, but it's one that this Labour government has forced us into, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely right. Listen, great to talk to you. James, thank you very much indeed. James Price, former government advisor there. You know, we are literally staring into the abyss at this point, and the police don't have any answers. And the politicians apparently don't have any answers either. I mean, I was sent a picture yesterday from a poster that appears on London Transport for London, as it's now called, which is a warning to anyone. And the big headline is staring. And it says, intrusive staring of a sexual nature is sexual harassment and is not tolerated. Who is this aimed at exactly? You know? Are you looking at me? You know, it's a scene from Taxi Driver, isn't it? Are you looking at me? You know, you're on the underground. If you look at somebody, is that staring? If somebody's staring in a sexual way, how do you propose to define that and what it is? What's basically going on here is this is aimed at people who have come here from foreign lands who think that they can treat women in some kind of, you know, derisory way because they don't have any rights. You can rape them, you can kill them, you can molest them, you can sexually assault them, you can stare at them. That's why they have to put these messages on Transport for London, so that people actually who didn't know that it was a problem are told that it's a problem. It's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Let's get a voice note from Kissy.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Jeremy. 2 for the price of 1 this morning. How lovely. This is Kitty from Kent. I just wanted to comment on some of the language being used by coming out of the government, presumably calling it summer riots, summer unrest, etc. These are concerned parents, concerned citizens, worried about the safety of their communities. The unrest will only be caused by the hard left being shipped in, these ideologues who represent the government's view, and they'll be shipped in to anywhere where there are peaceful protests.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, Kitty? Thanks indeed for that. One from Debbie, who says, in the spirit of Donald Trump, Starmer has no idea of what the real people of our country want or need. He thinks spending 5 minutes in Stockport putting flowers down is him proving he's one of us. Apart from meeting a single mum in her kitchen, he doesn't like us. Will he go to Essex until it's too late, says Debbie? Yeah, well, you say 5 minutes in Southport. It was actually 19 seconds, if you remember. He walked in, he put some flowers down, you could hear people heckling him, and he walked back out again. And he then supposedly went to meet some emergency service workers, but he didn't speak to any of the people who were asking what he was going to do, asking how he was going to justify allowing this kind of behaviour and these kinds of killings to happen. Absolutely unbelievable. Sharon says this from Staffordshire. My partner and I have stayed at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf before. It is a very nice hotel and we had to pay for it ourselves. We did not get it for free. Well, that's what most people have to do, right? Most people don't get given a card when they're born that they can take to a casino and use to actually gamble with. But that's what these people get. That's what thousands of people have been given, right? Thousands of them. They get a free phone. They get a free gambling card. They get a free pass to all sorts of things. Circuses, football matches, you know, theme parks. It's absolutely incredible what's going on in this country. And they wonder why we're bankrupt and we don't have any money. 23 minutes past 7.
I do think that the reconciliation is realizing that they're running out of options. If I were Meghan Markle, I'd go back to acting. She can make a huge paycheck by doing not a lot of work, which is her favorite thing ever. But, you know, she could just do cute little cameos. I also think that that would help resurrect her reputation to take quirky little, I think that if she popped up in different kind of pop culture moments, what she should have done was she should have done Suits LA before they canceled it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:25. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock when Alex Phillips will be here in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. This from Christian. He says, I've recently moved into an HMO due to my previous landlord taking back the property. Upon arrival, the 3 other occupiers don't speak any English and get everything paid for them. Why on earth am I working full-time, says Christian. Well, it's a very good point. People are getting so fed up with everything that's going on around them, particularly when they discover that everybody that they see, apart from themselves, is getting everything for free. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's have a word now with David McKelvey, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. He's also CEO of TMI and My Local Bobby. He is from Epping. He was at the protest and he's got plenty to say about what actually happened. David, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much for joining us. You're local to Epping, I understand. So tell us what you make of this business of the Essex Police escorting, as they put it, the people from various different left-wing organisations into what you might call the lion's den.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the protest, Mike. I actually drove through with my family on the way to a restaurant in Epping. But, you know, when I drove through, you had lots and lots of locals, 500 plus local people who were peacefully protesting at that stage. And we just drove through. There were no issues. It was all peaceful and fine. I then monitored what was going on live stream on YouTube and could see what was going on. And basically you had this group of Antifa. Clearly the police, Essex police, had information that they were turning up because they met them at the police station, met them at the railway station, the train station. And then they escorted them up, walked them up, which is quite a journey. It's you know, it's 10 to 15 minutes walk from the station into the vicinity of Bell Hotel. They were about 400 yards away. They surrounded them, looked after them, protected them. And unfortunately, at that stage, some of the women from the initial protests outside the Bell Hotel had walked down towards the council offices to obviously protest outside the council offices. And that's when the goading started effectively. Right. And you then saw what happened. You then had both sides, you know, throwing abuse at each other. And that became violent. And then the police put them onto 3 marked carriers and drove them away from the scene.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all very strange, isn't it? Because the police chief, Ben Julian Harrington, says that they didn't drive them from the station, but they kind of, in quotes, escorted them from the station. I mean, how does something like that happen? In your experience as a former police detective, chief inspector, you know, do the protesters get in touch with the police and say we're coming? Do the police just happen to notice that they've arrived? I mean, how does it actually work?
Well, you assume they received intelligence that this, you know, political group were going to attend and turn up. They all had the banners. They were all prepared. They, you know, a lot of them had masks on, so they were, you know, they were on their way to this protest. So, you know, there were options available to the police. That's the first thing. And you know, you've got to remember, I think you've mentioned it already, BJ Harrington is the ACPO lead for public order for the whole UK. Yes. And so he is probably the most experienced, or the person who, you know, policing looks to for, you know, policy and strategy. In this case, you know, someone, and I'm not saying it was him, it was probably someone, you know, a lower rank to him, has made a dreadful error. Yeah. You know, this was a peaceful protest. These were local people who were protesting about something they felt strongly about. Right. And unfortunately, as a result of Antifa being escorted up to that protest, that then led to the violence that occurred afterwards. And so that was in my opinion, an error of judgment, and it would have been good if they'd admitted it. Unfortunately, they made it worse because initially they denied that had happened.
Well, exactly. That's the problem. So they were caught out in a lie. And then yesterday, at his press conference, he said that the decision to escort them and to then drive them away was made at the sort of, you know, street level, if you like, by people on the ground, which would suggest that he was not involved in it at all, which seems to me to be wrong, given how high profile this particular demonstration was, and the fact that, you know, news media was all over it like a rash. You would think that he would have wanted to be, you know, I think they call it, you know, Gold Command or something like that. You'd think on a day when it's going on, he would be working and he would be saying to people, you make sure, whatever you do, whatever decision you make, you talk to me beforehand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You would have expected there would have been a goal group, and that, you know, it would have been dealt with at a very, very senior level. Chief Constable, I would have expected personally. You know, what you did see from watching, you know, the live stream was that I felt very sorry for the you know, the officers on the ground. Yeah. You know, they clearly had instructions, because you saw people attacking them, and they weren't taking any action. You know, ordinarily you'd grab them people, you know, and surrounded them, arrested them, and dealt with them. But they were literally being attacked. The vans were being attacked, and they weren't doing anything. And it makes you wonder whether or not there had been instruction from above, you know, instructing them not to take action at that stage, which you know, potentially may have been a good thing, because that may have, you know, excited it even more than it actually was. Right. But it was, I think, a huge error walking those people, escorting those people up from the station. Yeah. And I think also the early use of riot equipment wasn't, it sent the wrong message out to the local people who were protesting.
Exactly. I think couldn't agree with you more. David, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. David McKelvey there, former Metropolitan Police Detective, Chief Inspector and CEO of TMI and My Local Bobby. No question at all that this was a massive error, because even by his own admission, BJ Harrington, the police chief of Essex, said, we escorted them from the station on foot. He denied driving them there because that's true, they didn't. But to deny taking them from the station is absolutely wrong, because they actually walked with them, right? He then goes, we had to drive them away for their own safety. So you're basically admitting that as the police chief of Essex, you've taken people into a place in which they're likely to be put in danger. So much so that you had to then drive them away from that area that you took them to because of the danger. So, effectively putting people in danger as a police officer and as a police unit, which seems to me to be absolutely and utterly ridiculous, right? Kazia has sent me this. Hello, dears. I totally love the Morning Glory show. I'm amazed by the way you comment on the reality, and I find a lot of similarities between the British and the Polish everyday life nowadays. Thank you for being there. Also for people from other countries who love to listen to what is going on elsewhere. Politicians definitely lie. Well, that certainly is an international cross-border scenario, isn't it? Let's talk now to Matt Vickers, MP, Deputy Conservative Chairman and Shadow Minister for the Home Office. I think those are new titles now since the reshuffle. Matt, very good morning to you.
Good morning, mate. All the jobs, all the jobs.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you've had more jobs than old, what's his name, Warnock, the football manager. He seems to be getting a new job every 5 minutes. Now, listen, this problem that we have with the police in this country, you used to be a Shadow Minister for the police, I believe. They're saying they're not ready if anything does kick off this summer. Do you think it's wise that both the police and the government seem to be talking up the possibility of there being riots this summer?
I mean, what you've seen in the last few days is actually lots of genuine people who are really frustrated about an issue in their communities, coupled with a gang of yobs who turn up and try to make these things, often travelling quite a distance, the extremists that travel in to create holy hell in these situations.
Yeah.
The violence that we see is entirely... Police need to be braced for it, but of course the big news today on police, and why they definitely won't be as prepared for it as they should be, is the fact that under this Labour government we've already, this year, lost 1,316 police officers on our streets. Policing is going the wrong way as the world becomes more dangerous. When we left office there was a record number of police on the streets. We need more police, not less.
Yeah. And exactly. And I mean, if you were in government right now and you were watching yesterday's press conference, I assume you saw it from the Chief Constable of the Essex Police, BJ Harrington, would you not have stepped in as the government and said to this guy, sorry mate, you've got to stand down, you've got to resign, because you have made a massive blunder here, even if it wasn't your decision, to escort these left-wing activists into an area where, one, they were put in danger, and two, you created what was nearly a riot situation?
I think one of the problems with the story at the minute is yesterday it started off as, the police were shipping them in and out in vans and it sort of seems to have been an emerging story. I think there's definitely serious questions that need to be asked. We need to get to the bottom of exactly what went on, who made what decisions, and whether it was compliant with what these guys are trained to do in these situations. Anything that inflates such a situation is obviously a disaster.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. We know exactly what happened because he's admitted it. They went and met them at the station. They escorted them to the event, to the hot point of where the demonstration was going on, which at that point was completely peaceful. They then allowed them to demonstrate in such a way that it became less peaceful, and the clashes then started to happen. The police then had to get involved, and they were in such a dangerous position, they thought, that they then put them into vans and drove them back to the station. So you've got all the facts you need. Surely, if you're the government, you have to say to this guy, you're out of a job, mate.
Well, the government and policing more generally, the National Police Chiefs have to look at what went on, look at the data and make a real assessment about where he has gone wrong and what's happened. I think that's kind of for them, and it's kind of for the ins and outs of specifically where and when. But the reality is, with all of these things, everybody says, oh, it's all these terrible rioters who are opposed to hotels. No, there are genuine people out there who actually, not only are they're distraught about what's gone on in the community, they're also distraught about the fact that all this goes on their doorstep. When this violence breaks out, the people who suffer, the people who live round the corner, who are already going through all this trauma, it's old people who daren't leave their house, it's businesses who have to lock up their doors for the day. It has real consequences for people. You know, it might be a punch-up and a bit of fun to
but Matt, come on.
protesters from elsewhere in the country.
It was your lot that put these people in the hotels in the first place. I mean, many of these hotels, and certainly the one in Epping, has been a migrant hotel for the last 5 years, right? So 4 of those
Do you know what I
were
think
under the Tory
sometimes?
government.
Yeah, I think sometimes, though, we've got to put it in the context. If there was a problem there was a deterrent. These people should, if they arrive in this country, be detained and removed. If you break into this country and come illegally, you shouldn't be allowed to stay.
Yeah,
What's happened
but
since the government took
the
office?
Tory government,
the number
Matt,
of people arriving.
But Matt, the Tory government did
the number
exactly
of people
that.
arriving's gone up. Well, it started to reduce it, so it put in place a deterrent. We were going to ship these people out, which is the right thing to do. You shouldn't be able to stay if you arrive illegally. What was happening to the number of hotels? It was going down. Since Labour came into office, it's gone up. It's gone up significantly. There are nearly 50% more people arriving in the country. Why is that? It's because the number of people well, we've seen this huge growth in the amount of benefits being claimed by foreign nationals. We've also seen the fact that Keir has made it a possibility that if you arrive in this country illegally, you can become a British citizen. We actually have written in law you can't do that. If you break into the country, you can't become a British citizen. He's put the red carpet out. He's put a big banner saying, come on in, you can become a British citizen. He's removed some of the things that allowed us to verify people's ages and check how old they were when they arrived in the country. He literally put out the red carpet for these people to break into our country.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that's exactly what the Tory party did as well, and because some of the people who are here came during the time that you were in charge. I mean, would you admit, for example, now, Matt, that it was a mistake to actually allow, all of these people to come here and to put them up in hotels in the first place?
I think it was a disaster to allow so many people to come in illegally, but I don't think we did allow people to go. I mean, obviously, I wasn't a minister in the last government. Kemi wasn't the leader.
But
the reality is, she said
it's
a disaster. She said that it's a disaster that she's conceded that government's completely got this wrong. We've now got to deal with the issue. The reality is it's getting so much worse. The previous government had started to reduce the number of people staying in hotels. And actually, the number of people arriving illegally who are removed has gone down since Labour came to office, whilst the number hasn't just gone up. That's the problem. We keep pushing everything in together and making it one story. The reality is, since Labour came in, nearly 50% increase. It is a car crash. And it's not just getting worse, it's getting significantly, hugely worse, actually.
Yeah. What about this story on the front page of the Daily Mail today? In the past year, over 6,000 migrants have used government-issued cards loaded with £50 a week at betting shops and casinos. Now, presumably, some of that happened under your watch. You were probably giving these people these cards, weren't you?
Well, I definitely wasn't giving anyone any cards, but no, that sounds utterly disastrous, entirely unacceptable. It can't be a thing. The reality is we need to get back to the entire principle of a deterrent. If these people come, they need to be removed. We've seen Greece of all places, and now looking at how we handle it, and actually you don't start registering them and giving them the right to apply if they enter illegally. You just remove them. That's where we need to be. We cannot go on allowing people to come into the country. The pressure on public services, the pressure on public finances, and all of that is paid for by British taxpayers. We can't go on like this.
We can't go on like this, absolutely right. But, you know, according to this piece that came in originally from Politics Home, Peterborough has seen a huge increase in the number of gambling establishments and gaming centres and a huge increase in men who've arrived on small boats. It's not unusual to see the very same men in some of the establishments on a Thursday, Friday or Saturday night. There is something going on. The Home Office say that there are 80,000 individuals who are entitled to use these cards, right? So that obviously means that they were given them before the last year has happened, because there's only, 40-odd thousand that have come in the year. While they're waiting for a decision on whether they have a valid claim to stay in the UK, they are living in hotels at taxpayers' expense, and they're given these cards by the Home Office. So that must have been Conservative Party policy.
Well, I don't know that it was, but it's utterly ridiculous. It's entirely unacceptable. I obviously wasn't amongst it to see that, but we need to get to the bottom of who would allow such a thing to happen.
Yeah, but this is why people have lost faith.
But the reality is,
this is why people have lost faith with the Tories. I'm sorry to tell you this, and I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm just saying that, this is why people don't trust you, because a lot of this stuff started under the Tories.
Mike, I've been appearing on your show since 2019 when I arrived. You know my views.
Yeah.
You know what I think on all
I
these
do.
issues, and you know that I also wasn't afraid to speak out against the government and got into lots of trouble for it. But I think on things like this, when you compare the two records, the reality is things aren't just getting a little bit worse, Mike. They're getting much
No, I get
worse
that.
under Labour.
And
More
you-
people
listen.
arriving, more people staying in hotels, and less of them being removed.
Yeah.
And the benefits bill is growing out of all control as a result.
Yeah, no, I get that, and you know me, I'm not shy about attacking the government at all, but I'm also telling you that, you know, you've got to remember that the Tories are going to take the blame for a lot of this from the public's point of view, which is why they want reform to get in. Matt Vickers, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Deputy Conservative Chairman and Shadow Minister for the Home Office. The Home Office has given out 80,000 of these cards that men are using to gamble on in, you know, cities and towns up and down the country. It's absolutely incredible. Scott from Dorset, working on the mean streets of central London, says, "Morning, Mike. I've just driven from Bayswater to the Strand and passed at least a dozen posters advertising counter-protests in Epping to fight against fascism by the migrant welcome loons. I wonder if they'll make their own way there, or maybe the Met will put them on minibuses." Well, who knows? I mean, it looks as though there's a massive blunder that happened with Essex Police, and my bet is that the Essex Police Chief, B.J. Harrington, is going to be out of a job before the end of this month. 0344 499 1000. Coming up, we're going to talk about the doctor's strike. Lawrence Gurlis is going to be joining us, and we'll take more of your calls, of course, all the way through the show. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:44. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, and of course until 10 o'clock. Lots more going on. Just got a note from Christian, a producer, saying back in February 2024, police were given powers to arrest protesters who wear face coverings to threaten others and avoid prosecution, and pyrotechnics will be banned at protests. We're going to play you a little clip in a little while when we get it ready for you from another incident of the police actually escorting more protesters who are wearing masks, wearing balaclavas, covering their faces. And this time it's in Aldershot, where there's another demonstration going on about a migrant hotel there. They're escorting more of these left-wing activists to the protest. And the left-wing activists are wearing masks, which is contrary to the law, according to what we've been told happened in 2024. Unbelievable. Let's talk to David, who's in Gloucestershire. Hello, David.
Hello, Mike. Good morning.
Morning. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that there must be a minister or department for pissing the British people off, because that's, I'm sorry to swear, but that's the only word to use this morning.
I know.
You know, these credit cards for gambling, it's just what?
I know. The cards. Let me anger you even further. I'm sorry to do it to you on a Thursday morning. The Home Office is able to track where the cards are used, but does not block payments for particular types of transactions. The figures reveal that significant numbers of asylum seekers are now using the cards to gamble. 80,000 individuals who are waiting for a decision on whether or not they have a valid claim to stay in the UK have got these cards, right? Incredible.
I just did the maths very quickly, and even if you issue them out, so 80,000 times 50, that's 4 million.
Yeah.
And then if you give...
That's 4 million a week.
Well, yeah, is it weekly, is it? Well,
yeah.
It's even worse then, because I was thinking even if they issued them monthly, it's 48 million.
No, it's £50 a week, we understand.
Well, that's 48 times... yeah, I can't do the maths.
Well, it's 4 million a week, right?
52.
4 million a week times 52, over 200 million a year.
Yeah. And I mean, in the meantime, they're telling pensioners they can't afford to put the heating on.
I know.
It's disgraceful.
I know. And we don't have any money, apparently, to ensure that we've got enough teachers in our schools. We don't have enough money, apparently, to make sure that there are enough doctors in our hospitals and in our GP surgeries. We don't have enough money to enable us to actually, run anything with any efficiency whatsoever. We're borrowing money all the time because we don't have any money, and we're giving it away to these people.
Well, not only that, I mean, I'm disabled myself. I'm blind, but I don't get offered a free phone.
Right.
I have to pay for it myself.
Yeah, of course you do. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is a nonsense. And as I just said to Matt Vickers, this all started under the Tories, and the Labour Party aren't making it any better. But, the Home Office is to blame for all of this, right? And apparently, in terms of what they can spend the money on, it says that, they're not normally able to gamble with the card itself, but they can use it to take cash out inside of a casino or a gaming centre.
Well, I mean, we're just being laughed at now by the government, and I don't know where it's going to end.
Yeah.
And then when I heard this morning that Essex police have taken out special powers to stop protesting, I thought, yeah, they would, wouldn't they?
I mean, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
I don't know where it's going to end.
I don't. I think it's not going to end well, though. David, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. Let's get a voice note from Darren.
Good morning, Mike. Darren from Suffolk. Great show as ever. I've just listened to this Chief Constable of Essex yesterday in his interview. And he says verbatim, everybody has the right to assembly and everybody has freedom of speech under the law of the UK. And yet this morning, anybody demonstrating outside the Bell Hotel under special powers will be arrested. I mean, what sort of two-tier is this? It's absolutely incredible. And the people have had enough.
Yeah, the people have absolutely had enough, Darren. You're quite right. It's incredibly ridiculous what is going on. We'll be covering it, of course, all the way through today and all the way through the weekend as it's coming up, because there's going to be trouble, I'm telling you, in all sorts of different parts of the country. Aldershot now, people are looking at demonstrating. Obviously, outside of the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, that's going to go on. What's going to happen at the Bell Hotel in Epping? Have the migrants still been kept there? Are they being moved? What's going on? There are going to be outbreaks of this in every single town and city in this country, because everywhere you look, there's a migrant hotel. I could probably point to one from this building, within easy eyeshot. It's absolutely ridiculous. Coming up, we're going to talk about the doctor's strike.
He said they weren't driven in, but there were some protesters who were actually escorted away from the protests. But of course, it's worth remembering that Essex police initially denied, this was yesterday, that anybody had been escorted to the protests. It was only when they were shown video evidence that they admitted it. And now Ben Julian Harrington has said as much at this press conference. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, called on him to resign within the last hour.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:52. This from Dave in Oxford, who says this: immigrants are seen regularly at Oxford Dog Track. They're housed in the Holiday Inn next to the Kassam Stadium, which is the home of Oxford United. This is based next to the sprawling council estate where many of these immigrants spend their days at the bookmaker's office. And Zoe says, morning, Mike, what really gets my goat is this bloody government can find all this money to do everything to house illegals and then has the damn nerve to come back to us for more money because the country's going to the dogs. Well, certainly that's true. They certainly don't have any money for the junior doctors, do they? Let's talk to Dr. Lawrence Girlis, GP at Same Day Doctor. The strike is going to start tomorrow, I think 5 a.m. Lawrence, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
We seem to be inundated at the moment with problems in this country, and the doctor strike, bizarrely, is not the most important of them, it would seem, but they're going ahead with it anyway. 5 days of action. It's going to cost us 87 million. 250,000 appointments are going to be missed, and people are going to suffer. Even the BMA have admitted that they're doing it, and it will harm the public. So, I mean, what is going on?
Well, to be honest, Mike, I've actually changed my position for over the last 2 years because I don't want to be another middle-aged doctor who had a free education criticising these resident doctors. They do have a point. Unfortunately, they've gone about it the wrong way. They've turned it into this. The BMA is a very politicised union. It's not just about pay. It's about the whole career structure. There are doctors with over £100,000 student debt. They have no job security, and physician associates or physician assistants are paid £10,000 a year more than them. This is the fault of successive governments who have mismanaged the entire situation. And my view, for what it's worth, is that they should pay the doctors what they're asking, but take it out elsewhere in the health service. And if you want to see what's wrong with the health service, just have a look at what's going on at this industrial tribunal in Fife. That is a snapshot of what the health service is like, and multiply that 1,000 times all over the country. We can find this money within the current budget because there are lots of people who are slowing the whole system down. It's a dysfunctional system. The doctors actually do work very hard. They take huge responsibility. I'm not a ladder puller. They've got a lot, they have.
But there's an awful lot of doctors, though, Lawrence, as well, who are junior doctors who don't think that the strike is worthwhile, who don't think that the strike should be happening, and who are not actually going on strike. There's a very large proportion of junior doctors who know what they're doing, who understood what they were getting into, and who are quite happy to continue going the way they are going because it's not a bad job and it's not a terribly badly paid job either.
No, look, I never believed that doctors should strike at all. I said that the strikes wouldn't work, but in fact the strikes did work because the Labour government gave them what they wanted last time. But what they should have done was restructure at the same time and give proper career development and proper career structure deal with this physician associate situation. And look, I've got a friend who's going on strike because he wants a few days rest. He doesn't believe in the strike,
that's nice,
but he's absolutely exhausted because of the pressures that he's working under. So look, it's a very difficult.
But hang on, but look, people are not made to be doctors, are they? People don't go out and sort of bang you over the head like some kind of press gang. Go, right, now you're going to be a doctor for the next 7 years, and you're going to have a terrible time, and you're going to hate it. People choose to do it, right? They must know they're not stupid people. They've got a reasonably high level of IQ. They go and do the training that they need to do, knowing that will put them in debt, knowing also that they'll be paid reasonably well throughout their career to pay that debt off. So you can't suddenly tell me that they've woken up one Monday morning and gone, crikey, this is a lot worse than I thought it would be.
Well, I think it is actually.
What, are they stupid?
Well, people should have a sense of vocation. I never striked. There was a strike call when I was a junior doctor. I didn't agree with it. I don't believe in strikes, but I do have enormous sympathy. And actually, when the doctors do get into the hospital wards, it is a lot worse than they were told. They were promised.
Well, they're idiots if they didn't find out what they were told wasn't right then, aren't they? I mean, I could tell you every day that I could wake up in the morning at 4:20 in the morning and complain that I have to go and do a job that I don't like doing and that nobody told me it would be this really busy and I might get tired and it might be exhausting. You know, you make up for it because you know that's your job.
Yeah, but the bullying in the health service, it's really one
doctors
of the
don't get bullied in the health service, do they? Surely to God. I mean, bullies. The doctors are the bullies, aren't they?
No, not at all. Not at all. The junior doctors are believe it or not, bullied by the nurses and the female doctor. No, seriously.
Come off it.
Seriously. Because the doctors
What sort of wallies are these people then?
The doctors move every 4 months, so they're always the new boy or the new girl. And believe it or not, the worst bullying is female nurses against female doctors. Seriously, Mike. And
that sounds mad to me.
No, trust me, Mike. Trust me. You talk to some junior doctors about it. The new girl comes on the ward. The female nurses say, "Oh, who's this?" They say things like, "I'm not going to bother to learn your name because you'll be gone in 4 months." That's a direct quote. Seriously, the hospital medicine is
well. If you get more money, that's not going to help, is it?
No, that's true. Money's just part of the problem. But I do sympathise.
I suggest some of them get a backbone and start working out that the real world actually might not be what it's like in a movie, and that sometimes you have to do things that aren't all that pleasant. And sorry if you don't like it, but don't worry. Here's $100 grand a year.
Well, no one's getting 100.
Yeah, they are.
No, that's a senior, the most senior type of pre-consultant who does lots of overtime.
Are you telling me they don't get lots of overtime money? You're telling me they don't do any private work? You're telling me they don't get extra money for doing little, clinics here and there? Of course they do.
Not that the resident doctors don't.
You are well out of step, I'm sorry to say, Lawrence, with the entire country, because the entire country says they're greedy. They got 22% last year. They're topped up by another 4 or 5%. They've had 27% of a pay rise, which is an awful lot more than anybody else has ever got, including nurses, by the way, over the course of the last, several decades. It's ridiculous.
Look, you've known me a long time. The fact I take up this is a very carefully considered position. It's a terrible, terrible job. And then a lot of them are then out of work. And then they go off to Australia, and then we import foreign doctors.
You're breaking my heart, Lawrence. You're breaking my heart. I can't take it. Listen, we're going to have to let you go. But listen, have a good weekend. Nice to see you. Dr. Lawrence Gurley. I don't know what's happened to him. He's obviously swallowed the Kool-Aid. Listen, I'm not taking any of that crap. Right, the doctors have got a great job. They should just get on with it and stop bloody moaning. And if they're getting bullied, just slap them. This is Talk.
I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so we reach that level in 2027.
The answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
On Saturday, we also agreed a new £2.2 billion loan for Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know. I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right. Well, I just think he should be more appreciative, because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us, because as you know, that's right there, that's the border.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 3 minutes past 8, I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Don't forget, if you've got a story that's affected you or your family and you think we should know about it or investigate it further, email us at tips@talk.tv. We will always be here to help you and to develop any story that you may wish to talk about. Just getting a conversation going there with Dr. Lawrence Gurlis, who says that nurses bully doctors and it's terrible for them. And that's one of the reasons why they've gone on strike. Junior doctor strike begins tomorrow, 5 a.m. 250,000 operations and procedures are going to be cancelled. £87 million is what it's going to cost the NHS. Consultants are asking for £6,000 to work over the weekend, not necessarily to actually do the work, but just to be on call over the weekend. So if you're affected by this, if you've got a cancellation or something you can tell us about the NHS, by all means let us know. And if you've worked in the NHS and if you currently work in it, is it really that bad? You know, are people at each other's throats every single day that they go to work? Because it shouldn't be like that. And if it is, somebody needs to sort it out. 0344 499 1000. My heart does not bleed, by the way, for junior doctors. You know, they need to get a backbone for a start. Coming up in this hour, Peter Hitchens joins us with the world on the brink, it would seem. According to the Daily Telegraph, the police are saying in this country that if there is a summer of unrest, they are simply not ready for it. They won't be able to cope with it. They won't be able to deal with it. They don't have enough police officers, and the disorder that would spread from one town to another would be something that they could not handle. And that, I think, is a terrible indictment of the police. Yesterday, we saw the Chief Constable of Essex Police, B.J. Harrington, basically denying that they bust a bunch of left-wing activists into a protest at Epping Forest and the Bell Hotel, which is still apparently the subject of a dispersal order. Nobody can apparently demonstrate outside it right now as we speak. But they did admit to busing people back to a station and escorting them to the protest. And of course, Harrington said it's not for him to resign. It's not his responsibility, and it's not for him to judge how the deal went on the day. But clearly, there is a massive problem with the police force in this country. It is no longer serving the public. It is now helping activists to actually go and demonstrate in places where they shouldn't be. Peter Hitchens coming up in this hour. We're going to talk to him about many things, including drug dealers, e-bikes, and what on earth is happening on the streets of this country, that they're also out of control. Meanwhile, a UN court has opened the door for various different countries around the world to sue us for climate change. Apparently it's all our fault. I had no idea. 0344 499 1000. Plus Angela Rayner. She's got 30 people working in the office of the Deputy Prime Minister. And more bad news coming up. Rachel Reeves apparently is seeking heavyweight economic advisors as the budget looms. God, blimey. It's a bit late for that, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Let's get it on. Morning, Mike, says Margaret in Birmingham. On the subject of Ange, that's Angela Rayner, our Ethiopia Ange has her own photographer, obviously to travel to Ethiopia. 30 staff, what a joke. Since they got into government, they all jumped on the non-stop gravy train. Get rid ASAP. Says Kev, Rayner's obsessed with Ethiopia, Millipede's obsessed with EV Utopia. Yes, entirely right. This from John. Everyone I speak to is sick and tired of these in-it-for-themselves politicians. The lies they have told us over the last few years have finally sickened us. From our borders are secure, immigration is good for us, men with the penis of women, waiting lists are down, build more homes, solve more crime, won't tax working people, electric cars are great. I could go on and on. Which one of these are true? Tell me I'm wrong, Mike, and I've been in a bad dream. I'm afraid you're not wrong, and you haven't been in a bad dream. It is unfortunately the reality of what we are seeing today. And considering that current legislation gives police the power to direct people to remove face coverings in designated areas and to seize them where they reasonably believe people are wearing them wholly or mainly for the purpose of concealing their identity. Have a look at this, right? This is from yesterday. Hampshire Police, Hampshire Constabulary escorting masked anti-migrant protesters past a hotel protest in Aldershot, right? This is exactly what happened in Epping. These characters look like they're up to no good. The only thing they're not doing is carrying clubs. But they basically look like Antifa protesters. They've all got their faces covered, and the police are basically escorting them to a point where they can protest against the anti-migrant protesters in Aldershot, who are local people who don't want to see what they're seeing. It's an extraordinary state of affairs. Let's talk to Peter Hitchens about it, columnist at the Mail on Sunday. Peter, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, you know better than most, I suspect, what's happened to the police in this country. They seem to have become infiltrated by activism. They seem to have been sort of captured, if you like, by the wokists. When we watched, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, the press conference of the Chief Constable of Essex Police, B.J. Harrington, a man so pompous he could almost disappear up his own backside, who seemed to think that he had done nothing wrong, seemed to think it was perfectly acceptable to escort left-wing activists from out of town to a place where local people were demonstrating.
Yeah, the police have not just been infiltrated. That would be a grave underestimate of what's happened.
Yeah,
It's now 22 years since I wrote a book called The Abolition of Liberty, in which I described the results, for instance, of the Scarman report into the supposed riots in Brixton back in the 1980s. Yeah. And then, of course, the Macpherson report into the murder of Stephen Lawrence, both of which were pretexts, these events, for a politically correct inquisition into the police to remove what remained of very conservative elements in them and to turn them into the army of political correctness, which they now are. This is part of if you want to know what's really wrong with this country, fundamentally the decision was taken beginning in the 1960s to abolish the idea of personal responsibility, to explain all crime as some kind of reaction to bad social conditions or abuse or whatever it might be, and to cease to enforce law as law is to cease to get rid of the old concept of punishment. As it were, the working maxim of the prison system in this country used to be the due punishment of responsible persons. And you see the whole point of that. People were assumed to be responsible for their own actions. If they committed crimes, they could then be duly punished according to law. That's not what happens anymore. There's a fantasy about rehabilitation. Prisons are not supposed to be for punishment. And of course, they fail completely in this. And at the same time, the police, who were supposed to be on the streets representing the desire of the population for peace and order and the repression of crime and disorder, have changed into a body of uniformed and almost armed social workers now. Paramilitary social workers was the phrase I used, and which people have begun to realise is largely true.
Right.
So that's what you see. You may have grown up with one idea of the police force, but they're not like that anymore, and there's no point in expecting them to do so. I was alarmed by what you reported earlier of them saying they couldn't cope with major civil disorder. That's a ridiculous, defeatist thing to say in the first place. And if you really are that badly equipped and unable to do it, the best thing to do is keep quiet about it. I would have thought so. Shout about it, and go quietly to ministers and say, can we have more resources? But I keep saying the problem with the police is not resources. There are more police in this country, both as an absolute number and per head, than more or less than there've ever been. There've been some peaks and troughs, but basically since the turn of the century, at least, the huge numbers of police now exist. But it's what they do that's the problem. And then one of the problems with them is, of course, they're not out on the streets as individuals, getting to know people, reassuring them, making it clear they're on the side of the public. They never see the public, except in bad circumstances. So their relations with them are poor. Their intelligence about what's going on is poor. And their ability to react to events and indeed to foresee events is poor. But to say they're ill-equipped for civil disorder seems to me to be a very unwise thing to do, even if it's true, which I honestly doubt. There are many, many of them. The mystery has always been, or not always, but at least for the past 20 years, what is it that they do?
But this is the problem, isn't it? Because when we do see lots of police out and about, you know, there's never a shortage of them. You know, when they need to mass. I mean, even in Epping, when they turned up mob-handed and they decided it was a good idea to put crash helmets on and go into full kind of riot gear mode, that in many ways was more provocative than had they not done it. You know,
you certainly can by unskilled policing. You can raise the temperature of events. I haven't been to Epping, so I can't really comment on whether that happened there. There's a lot of dispute about what's going on, but I do think that one of the main problems of the police is that they're now so out of touch with the law-abiding majority, because they've ceased to be part of that law-abiding majority. They've become a special body outside the public, and in many cases opposed to it. They don't share the public's views about what should be done about crime.
Right.
So, which is one of the reasons why one of the moments they can be absolutely guaranteed to turn up is when somebody has done what they call taking the law into their own hands and, say, enforced the law against a burglar in their house. In a way which most people would have thought was reasonable, but which of course challenges the police monopoly. The police don't want that kind of treatment of burglars. They want the social work, all crimes explained by conditions view to be taken, rather than the old-fashioned view that if you break into somebody's house, you've done something wrong and you should be punished.
Right. But it's a bit like the whole migrant conversation, isn't it? You know, they see in Essex, for example, the police chief clearly sees the villains of the peace are the people protesting outside the migrant hotel, rather than the policy that's led people to be able to come to this country unfettered, be given, in the case of the Mail splash this morning, you know, cars that they can gamble on and live the sort of life of Riley while paying for absolutely nothing. You know, there's nothing wrong with them.
I don't particularly want the police to be making political statements of any kind.
No.
I don't want them to if they have political attitudes, I want them to keep them to themselves. Everybody's entitled to have political opinions, including individual police officers, but I don't want to know what they are. I want them to enforce the law.
Exactly.
And therefore, that, for me, that's not a big deal. What worries me is that we discover that the police have got these attitudes and that these influence the way in which they police these events.
Right.
But how one resolves this, I absolutely don't know. The country has now allowed into its borders very large numbers of people who were not here before, of whom we know very little, and for whose lives we seem to be paying very large amounts.
And who are causing a great deal of disruption to everybody's everyday lives.
It's not surprising people are discontented about this, particularly the less well-off. But I think you and I have a very great responsibility not to make this any worse.
No, that's true. But all I'm doing is highlighting the fact that people up and down the country, and it's going to, you don't have to be Nostradamus to predict that it's going to happen in more places. You know, we've got a film coming in there from Aldershot that I just played, with Hampshire Constabulary escorting masked men into an area where there's a demonstration going on, which seems to me to be completely and utterly ridiculous. If you want to add fuel to a flame, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's the masking is perhaps the most alarming part of it, because it really is quite wrong for people to be going around the streets.
Well, it's illegal. I mean, there was legislation passed in 2024, which we quoted, which gives the police the power to direct people to either remove their face coverings or to even seize them in places where they conceal their identity.
I took note of that. It made me smile slightly because of the period when we were all being told we had to wear masks all the time.
Well, I mean, I've often said, Peter, that there was a time when people that wore masks were treated with suspicion. During COVID, you were treated with suspicion if you weren't wearing one.
Well, indeed, and in all those Western films we watched as children, the baddies were always masked, weren't they? It's the masked people with the bad guys. I don't know. There's so many people going around with masks, and I see all the time. For instance, people riding around on electric motorbikes.
Yes. Well, you've written about that this morning. I've seen.
Yeah, well, I did. They're masked up to the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And why is that? You don't. It's not that cold.
No.
Even at the speeds they ride them, why are they doing it? Why is nobody paying any attention to this? This
well, I noticed your piece
around our cities doing this all the time. This is the thing the police might be doing, stopping them and asking them exactly what.
Yeah.
Are you delivering a cheeseburger, sir, or is there something else in your bag?
Yeah.
And may I have a look at it?
Exactly.
Oh, good heavens! This is an illegal substance. Oh well. Let's not do anything about that.
Let's not worry about it. Yeah, because your piece.
Law, and then you don't enforce laws of that kind for 20 or 30 years. You don't enforce the laws against public disorder. You let people behave very, very badly in the street all the time, particularly in the abandoned areas where the poor live. And that's the thing. When you go to parts of the country where the poor live and where a lot of these migrants are being housed well. And what is the word which comes to mind when you go to these areas? They're abandoned.
Yeah.
Authority has abandoned them. It offers no help, no comfort, no protections to the people. And at the same time, as I see, you've had decades of neglect by the forces of law and order in which bad behaviour has not been restrained. It wouldn't be surprising if terrible things happen following that. But as I say, I really think that we have to be very, very careful not to do or say anything which might make that worse.
No, true. But I mean, it's not.
Social disorder is a terrible thing. It benefits absolutely.
Yeah, but it's equally not. It's equally
the areas where it happens, and it spreads fear and despondency, and it does enormous damage to everybody involved. And
absolutely. But it's not your fault.
To avoid it.
Peter, it's not your fault if there's, exacerbated violence in the land.
No,
and it's not my fault either. But unfortunately, people like the Chief Police Constable of Essex Police is the kind of guy that would blame you for it and say, look, there's a reason why these people have rioted. It's nothing to do with the migrants. It's nothing to do with their unhappiness about the way that we've policed the event. It's nothing to do with the fact that they've got nothing and they see migrants getting everything for free. It's all to do with Peter Hitchens, who wrote a piece in the newspaper that made them all, enraged, right? But your piece today reminded me of something that happened to me yesterday. The drug dealers that shot past me at 40 miles an hour, and why I feel we're not being told how many people have been killed in e-bike crashes. A guy went. I was working quite late yesterday. I was driving home in rush hour about sort of 6:30 or so, 5:30, something like that. A guy went past me on a road in London in a bike lane. He must have been doing 50 miles an hour. He was going so fast, I was actually worried that if he crashed into something, he would be dead. It was unbelievable. And you see this every day now.
It's the biggest change in our road traffic laws, really, since the 1930s. It's a gigantic change, and also it's a gigantic social change as a result. It's made the country instantly hugely less safe. The whole basis of road safety in this country has been really since the 1930s that all vehicles that had motors carried large recognisable number plates, and that you weren't allowed to drive or ride motor vehicles unless you passed a test. And that was a very simple rule, and it kept us reasonably safe, and it reduced road casualties when it was introduced. This has now been abandoned completely for electric motorbikes, e-bikes as they're misleadingly called.
Yeah.
And it's also been abandoned for e-scooters, which, although some of them are still technically illegal, the ones which are owned privately, you very rarely see this law being enforced. And the others, which are hire bikes, which you can pick up all over the place, are totally legal, and they are motor vehicles, and they are ridden and driven by people who've got no qualifications to do so, and they don't carry number plates, so they can behave as they like, break all traffic rules. Nothing will happen to them. Cameras won't pick them up.
Right.
And if people want to use them in the commission of crime, they can't be traced. And it's a huge social and political and moral change in our society, which makes us much more like our city is much more like the cities of Southeast Asia, where traffic is chaotic and quite dangerous. And it's made particularly the pavements extremely dangerous for the vulnerable, especially for the blind and partially sighted. And there's been no discussion of it in Parliament. It's been in nobody's manifesto that I know, and yet this huge social change has happened, and it's almost impossible to get anybody to be interested in it. Well, yesterday the Daily Mail reported that ministers are beginning to worry about it.
Yeah.
But when you look at what they said, they were making very, very mild promises. But what I think is happening is that more and more members of Parliament, and this is exactly as it should be in my view, are getting their email inboxes flooded with people saying, what are you doing about these e-bikes and e-scooters, which are all over my town, one of which nearly knocked me over yesterday, or a rider of one mugged someone in front of me only the other day. Yeah. What are you doing about it? I think the government is quietly getting worried. What amazes me is that so few of my colleagues in the media have paid any attention to this vast social change going around them. But I should be used to this. I've been writing about vast social changes in this country going on without anybody paying any attention to them now for about a quarter of a century. So I suppose this latest one shouldn't be a shock. I see you're showing a film of police stopping riders of these vehicles, but I have to tell you this is very rare.
It is very rare, yeah.
I ride around London. I'm constantly seeing, particularly e-bikes, vehicles which aren't the supposedly e-bikes, which are officially classified, believe it or not, as bicycles, so they can ride through the royal parks as if they were push bikes, and they're got up to look like motorbikes.
The ones with the huge wheels.
Huge wheels, great fat tyres, and the people who ride them, again, masked to the eyeballs and unidentifiable, and the speeds at which they're capable. I know people say, well, they're all limited. People will say it's 15.5
No, they're
miles
not.
per hour.
They're really not.
They're not, because all you need to do is tinker with it a bit. The place is full of people who can do that. Why isn't there more of a fuss about
I know.
this?
Well, listen, I mean, myself and Nick Freeman.
What are our colleagues in the media doing? Just letting this go as if nothing was happening.
Yeah, I know. Well, because they're all also captured by this wokeism, where they think, well, if it's electric, it must be good for the planet, so we must just encourage it. Myself and Nick Freeman, right, the lawyer, put a petition into Parliament to register every single scooter, e-bike, and all the rest of it, every single thing that goes on the roads as we do in cars. And it was rejected by Parliament on the grounds that, we've already got one that's a bit similar, which doesn't appear to have gone anywhere either. So they're not. They're just not interested.
In fact, what they've got is something that's the complete opposite, because it is, as I say, with electric motorbikes, there is. A blind eye is turned to the existence of thousands of these things, which are immensely powerful, and as you say, capable of enormously high speeds and are heavy. If you were hit by one, it would be very, very serious. Also, I tried to get statistics from the Department of Transport some months ago on this. I haven't done it recently, but the reply that I got then was that there were no central statistics held.
I know. It's hopeless, absolutely hopeless.
And surely, if you introduce an enormous change of this kind in traffic rules, you should monitor it. We're supposed to be having experiments on e-scooters. Since 2020, it's been an experiment in my hometown and lots of others. But I constantly ask, where are the details of this experiment? What are the results? Who's monitoring it? And the answers that you get, even under freedom of information, are tremendously vague.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an experiment at all. I just think they want to carry on doing it so long that people get used to it and give up.
Oh, I think so.
Well, if you don't like it, and I think an awful lot of people don't, there's a very easy thing to use on any computer called writetothem.com, write to them all one word, which will give you the way to contact your local representative or your member of parliament, and write politely and briefly to them saying, what are you doing about this? Because I think they really do need to know. I think there's a lot of discontent. I think they really do need to know that it is so. And it's time it was debated properly in Parliament, and it's time that proper restrictions were placed upon it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people would agree as well. Peter, I've got to rush. Thank you very much indeed. Peter Hitchens there, columnist at the Mail on Sunday, big piece in the paper this morning about the drug dealers driving around on these e-scooters at 40 miles an hour, shockingly. Paula has got a voice note for us.
Morning, Mike. It's Paula in Liverpool again. I don't know why I listen to you every morning, because I just get so enraged. £50 a week. I suppose that's for their their toiletries and things they need to keep themselves clean and smart for job interviews and things, when in actual fact they're earning all their money on Just Eat and all these other food apps, so they can spend that money on gambling or whatever. I think the top and bottom of it all, Mike, is the government are too scared of them. They're too scared of who they've let into the country and what they can do en masse if they don't give them the money, if they don't give them the mobile phone that they want or better broadband. Whereas what the pensioners going to do if they take money from them? Nothing. We need to get real. We need to get this lot out as soon as possible. Anyway, have a nice day, Paula, Liverpool.
Paula. Thank you very much indeed. I'll try. Yeah, imagine what happens if there's, some kind of, massive kind of demonstration against the migrants. Then the migrants decide to massively demonstrate back. There's an awful lot of them, aren't there? Morning Mike, says Ollie in Bromley. Every day a shocking revelation. So give them gambling. To that will lead to addiction, which will lead to crime, to fund the addiction. Result, local people suffer the consequences. Well, quite. Absolutely right. It's a shocking state of affairs. Coming up, we're going to speak to Ross Clark. He's got some info for us on the deadly doctor who's behind the BMA strike. And guess what? He's a bit of a communist, it turns out. 8:26.
In that list that is being held up as the reason why our social fabric is fraying is the direct responsibility of the dreadful policies this government is making.
Well, those are their policies, the deindustrialisation. Those are their policies. So they're going, oh, look, here's a list of our policies that are causing societal decay.
Yes.
I mean, why don't you stop those policies? Why don't you do something that's good for this country? Honestly, Alex, you can't get your head around what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. It is Thursday, the 24th of July. Scott in Birmingham says, Mike, this has been going on forever. Walk past your local Paddy Power, mate. I can send you 100 photos of migrants sat inside and outside of the bookies. It's disgraceful. And Mark in Selby says, Mike, just what is going on? Police escort and protect far-left protesters masked up, yet ban protests from scared women and children against the risk of dangerous sex offenders in their community. Where is the protection for British taxpayers? Why are the pro-Palestine marches not banned using the same criteria as Essex police? What's next? Martial law? This is not fixing any foundations, it is demolishing them. Quite right too. Speaking of demolishing the foundations, great piece in The Sun today by Ross Clark, page 10, just ahead of the junior doctor strike. Dr. Feelbad, he's identified a bloke who is right at the centre of the strike. He's a doctor who is obviously with the BMA, but according to Ross Clark, this guy is actually more radical, probably. Ross Nievoet, I think is pronounced his name, is more radical than Arthur Scargill. Ross, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Dr. Feelbad, I mean, you would worry about being treated by this guy, wouldn't you? I mean, he seems to exist purely and simply to agitate rather than to actually medicate.
Yeah, well, it seems to me the BMA is rapidly taking on the mantle of Britain's most militant trade union, sort of putting the RMT in the shade and even outdoing Arthur Scargill in his pomp.
Yeah.
The particular individual, the co-chair of the BMA Resident Doctors Committee, made this extraordinary statement on the radio yesterday. Said, said that consultants who refuse to cancel their normal clinics over the weekend when the junior doctors will be on strike and staff the A&E instead. He said, well, they'll be guilty of dereliction of duty, and the BMA has demanded that these consultants bill the NHS £300 an hour for their services.
Amazing.
It's an extraordinary thing was this co-chair, he didn't, funny enough, accuse the junior doctors themselves of dereliction of duty. I mean, they're the ones who are walking out on their job. And, for what reason? The country is going bust. We had these public borrowing figures on Tuesday revealing that the government had to borrow £20 billion in June alone. We're getting to the stage where, we won't have a repeat of what happened under Liz Truss. It'll be worse. Global investors, bond investors, lose confidence in the government's ability to repay its debts. Then interest rates will go sky high. We will have to have, we'll be in the situation that Greece was in 2011, and we will have to have massive cuts to public sector pay and pensions. And it's just a BMA and other public sector unions seem to be totally oblivious to this, and they are bringing this sort of coming crisis onto themselves by making these sort of unrealistic demands. I mean, you cannot have a country which pays its workers above inflation, pay rises year on year on year, when those workers are not producing more. And this is the trouble we have with the public sector. Productivity in the public services has not grown in 28 years since Tony Blair came to power. And it is extraordinary when you consider the sort of advances in technology in the interim, which should have enabled massive increases in productivity. The average public service worker is producing less now than they were 3 decades ago.
Oh, I know. It's all ground to a bit of a halt, hasn't it, in the public sector? But I was talking to a doctor a little bit earlier in the show, Dr. Lawrence Gurlis, who assured me that he was in support of the junior doctors on this, not because he thinks they are striking about money, but they're striking about their conditions. And one of the things he said that's happening an awful lot, and this has been backed up by a couple of doctors that I know, he says that the doctors are being bullied by nurses. Junior doctors, they go into to work in hospitals and they get bullied. It sounds ridiculous to me, but apparently that's one of the claims that they want to change.
Yeah, it does. It's sort of almost a Benny Hill show, isn't it? Really, there's a standard line, isn't it, from trade unions. They always use these words, bullying and victimisation, that they're being somehow picked upon. And when, the situation is that junior doctors, and I refuse to call them resident doctors. I'm like you, I call them junior doctors. They're junior doctors. They're just trying to cover up the fact that they're still in training. They were given a 22% pay rise a year ago when Labour came into power. This year they've been given another 5.4% pay rise. It's way, way above any other public sector workers are getting. And, still absolutely nothing would satisfy them.
Well, there was a piece in one of the papers the other day saying that over the last 8 years, they've had an effective 91% pay rise. They've gone from a sort of an average salary of something like, 35,000 to up to something like 55,000 as a kind of a starting salary. And then, of course, it goes up and up and up as goes through the career. And I would say to them, well, they're supposed to be reasonably intelligent individuals. If they didn't know what the job entailed, why did they decide to study for 7 years to do it? And if they didn't realise that after the 7 years they'd studied, they might end up in a little bit of debt, what sort of idiots are they?
Yeah, and their claim that they need all these fat pay rises to return them to sort of 2008 pay levels in real terms is completely spurious.
Yeah.
They keep producing this figure as based on a discredited inflation index called the Retail Prices Index, which is not used now for many things. So, yeah. And I mean, look at and I say, if you think that doctors are underpaid, I say go and look at the figures for graduate earnings 5 years after graduation. And you find that the graduates who are earning the most in that time frame, they are medical students, people with medical degrees. They are not doing badly. And yet, you know, it's they who are bullying the rest of the population. We know people will die as a result of this strike as well. In the last series of strikes, coroner's reports specifically mentioned doctor strikes in 5 cases. But there was a couple of weeks in 2023 during a 5-day doctor strike when there were over 2,000 excess deaths. You know, that's more deaths than you would have expected from a 5-year average. So these strikes will be deadly. And you know, they are born of greed, not of anything else.
Yes, I think that's very true. Great piece today. Thank you very much indeed. Ross Clark there from The Sun. Big piece on Dr. Feelbad. This is the guy who's sort of the Marxist leader of the British Medical Association, who are going to go on strike as of 5 a.m. tomorrow morning for 5 days. Isn't it funny how they do it over the weekend? So they'll get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They probably won't come back to work until about Thursday of next week. So effectively they get a whole week off. And that is going to be subsidised by the BMA itself, that's got a war chest and pay people to not go to work as doctors, to not help people as doctors. Incredible. Let's get a voice note from Debs.
Morning, Mike. Debs from Lincolnshire. Great show as always. I've got a question that you could ask somebody. My husband and I flew from Luton to Inverness last month. So we were going away for our anniversary. And the guy wouldn't let us go check our bags in until we could show our passports. And I'm like, I'm going to Inverness. No, got to see your passport. I says, I don't have a passport. Not with me. Why would you? And it's funny because my husband had them just in case we needed ID. And he says, do you have any other ID? And I says, well, yeah, I've got my driving licence. And he was like, well, I need to see that. Okay. So I showed it to him and he says, yeah, you need ID to have to, you know, get on a plane. How can you get into this country with no ID, get stuck in a hotel, given all these benefits, but a British citizen can't get on a plane from one part of the UK to another without ID?
Yeah. I know, it's astonishing, isn't it? Mike in Sussex says, don't forget, illegals don't just arrive by small boat. They're arriving in the back of lorries and at airports undocumented daily as well. Maybe you should add these numbers to your trackers. It'll be huge. Well, yeah, I mean, nobody knows how many people are coming in the back of lorries. And certainly, we understand if you come into an airport undocumented, you get immediately sent back. But maybe that's not what happens. I'd love to hear the truth. 8:38.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Yeah, well, I did say welcome back to Morning Glory. I was about to say that. There's a reason why I'm going to say that, because we've got some Morning Glory for you. Don't be alarmed. We've got a very nice picture that's just come in, because about a year or so ago I was sent some seeds, believe it or not, by a listener. I wish I could remember who it was that sent them to me, but I can't. Maybe if you're still listening you can tell me it was you. But I got a packet of seeds and planted them. And this is the first bloom of the season, and that's a Morning Glory flower for you. So that's rather nice, isn't it? Just in case you think that all we do here is annoy you and make you feel depressed and awful about what's going on around us. There's a nice flower for you to cheer you up at 8:40 in the morning. So if you're not listening, it's a beautiful blue and yellow flower. Some people say it's the same kind of colours as Talk, really. But there we are. Right now we're going to talk to Orla Minihane, who's the Reform candidate for Epping, about what the situation is out there, because we understand a dispersal order is in place, basically in Epping, in the area which Essex Police say is covered by an area including the town centre, transport hubs and networks such as the tube station, in place from 2 p.m. today until 8 a.m. And on tomorrow. Which I presume is aimed at making sure that there isn't any more demonstrations going on. But it's just good to know, I suppose, that the Essex Police aren't escorting any more left-wing activists into the place to demonstrate against the good people of Epping. Orla, very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Thanks for talking to us. Is that right? So they basically, the police have basically banned anybody from going outside the Bell Hotel to demonstrate in any way, shape or form. Is that right?
To be fair, this is the first I've heard of it. We had a planned demonstration this evening, right, which has been planned for the past week. The problem is that these demonstrations have been taken over by a political agenda, by left and right, which is absolutely ridiculous. Right. This is not anything. This is not a political fight. This is not between left and right. At the centre of these protests are local people who are out demonstrating about the safety of the children in the area and the women in our community. This has never been about left, right, racism, not racism. This has been a media storm and a political storm has been created from the good of a local community just wanting their children and their women to be safe on the street. Yeah. So now we have a scenario where we have injunctions in place, we have arrests, we have people coming in from outside the area to make their points of view known, and to accuse us of all sorts of things where we're just local people who just want to say, we want our children to be safe. Right. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course there isn't. I mean, only yesterday, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, BJ Harrington, said this about how it was everybody's right to actually protest.
Force initially said that they didn't bring anyone to the hotel, but your colleague seems to suggest that that had happened after footage emerged. Can you set the record straight then? Was Stuart wrong when he said that?
Under the law of this country as it stands, people have the freedom to assembly and to freedom of speech.
So your officers did bring people towards that hotel?
Listen to my answer. That is there is a duty upon policing to allow people to exercise their rights of assembly and protest. That's a right of this country, under the Human Rights Act. People came to that of their own volition. They walked up to that protest in order to ensure that we understand the threat, manage and deal with the risks and the issues, as we did outside the hotel, as we did in the high street. We had officers there and they would have walked alongside to make sure that they understand, can intervene and prevent and detect crime. That's what happened, that's what the photos show, and that's what we did.
So according to him, everybody has the right to lawful assembly, as you do, Orla, and as the local people there do, except you don't, because he's just taken it away.
Well, he's taken it away. And my view would be, Mike, why are demonstrators coming from outside our town into our town to antagonise us and call us all sorts of names, when all we are doing is saying, wait a minute, council and the government, we have a hotel here that is packed full of illegal migrants. We don't know who they are, we don't know where they've come from, and that hotel is surrounded by 4 schools. So all we're saying is we are not comfortable as tax-paying locals having our children and our women walk on the street. We want you to do something about this. Right. And then suddenly we have trainloads of people coming from anti-racist groups. When did this become about race? It's not about race at all. They're coming into our town, causing trouble, antagonising the situation, and now we are being told we can't continue our protests.
Right. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely ridiculous.
As far as you're aware, are the migrants still in the hotel then?
Yes, they are, as far as we're aware. There was a lot of speculation that they had been moved to Canary Wharf. I don't think that's the case. As far as we're aware, they are still in the hotel. And our view as a local community is that we will still protest peacefully, of course. This evening we had intended to go to the Bell Hotel and then walk down to the council offices, which are at the other end of town, where there's a council meeting at 7, to say to the council, what are you doing about this problem? You are elected members of our council. You should be protecting the people of Epping and doing something about this situation. Why aren't you? And that's the question we're asking, and that's all we've ever asked. Right, and so nobody's communicated to you as one of the organisers of the protest, which I think you are. Nobody's communicated to you that you might not be able to do it. It says this order is going to be put in this afternoon, which will cover, it doesn't specifically say the Bell Hotel, but it says an area including the town centre, transport hubs and networks such as the tube station from 2 p.m. until 8 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah, I haven't heard that, and nobody that I know or within the group of demonstrators who are all local mums and dads, none of us have heard that, so that's news to me. Right, and if it is the case that they say you can't demonstrate, what will you do? I'll have to speak to everybody else. I'm obviously not the leader. Right. I'm just one of many, many concerned residents. I'll have to speak to the others and see what they think. I think that to go on TV yesterday as the chief constable and say that it's everybody's right to demonstrate, and then the very next day take away that right from the local residents of the town, is absolutely outrageous. So I'm not sure what to say on that, to be honest. Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, is your hope, or your aim at least, to have the migrants removed from that hotel and made to move somewhere else? Yes, but the thing is, Mike, my view has always been that we have these migrants in this hotel, and yes, they pose, in our opinion, they pose a threat to the local people. Now, if we're proved otherwise, then that's a different story. But ultimately, we don't know who they are. So they pose a threat to us. Yes, we want them out of our town. Yes, we want them out of that hotel and away from the children. But the question is, where are they going to go? Right. They're only going to become somebody else's problem in another town and put somebody else's family at risk. So my question has always been to the government, what is your plan? It's unsustainable. You can't keep bringing people into this country with nowhere to put them and putting people at risk, your own citizens and the children of this country. Yeah. It's absolutely unsustainable, and there has to be a plan. And we spoke to another mother just the other day who was at the demo on Monday, I think it was, and she said, I said, what would you say to Keir Starmer? And she said, just tell him we wanted to come and talk to us, come and see what we're dealing with here. Yvette Cooper the same. Come down, talk to the local people, find out why they're upset, find out what their concerns are, and do something about it. But he seems convinced to just keep his head buried in the sand. But Mike, not just that, and with all due respect to our Conservative Council, they have not come and asked us. They've stood up in Parliament, or they've gone onto radio shows and talk shows and said, we want the Bell Hotel, we want it closed down, blah, blah, blah. But none of them have been at these demonstrations with us. None of them have stood side by side. None of them have come and talked to the people of the community, and they are elected representation or representatives of the community of Epping Forest. So why haven't they come and spoken to us and taken our message to the government? Yeah. So there is fault on all parts here. The only people, in my opinion, that aren't at fault are the innocent victims of sexual crime within these towns and villages. They're the ones who are being put at risk, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Yeah. That is wrong on every level. Yeah, of course. A quick text here, which is correcting what I've said, from Ellie, who says, the order says this is to stop anyone going to Epping for bad intent, not to stop the demo altogether. There you go. Please tell Orla. So there we will carry on as planned. Please tell Orla to make sure the message gets out that it's still on. So that may be true. I don't know. All I'm seeing is that they're saying maybe they're trying to stop the lefties from coming into the town again. And my question is, and I hate the expression the lefties, because again it makes it about left and right, But why are they coming, Mike?
Yeah.
Why are they coming? To do what? How can anybody come and protest and stand in front of a group of parents, mainly mothers, and say, we do not think that you are right? How can we not be right? All we're doing is protecting children and saying we will not stand for our 13 and 14-year-old girls in uniform to be sexually harassed and abused.
Yeah. It seems a
No
very
one
reasonable.
can argue with that.
Seems a very reasonable aim, doesn't it? Orla, well, listen, good luck with it. Hopefully it all
Thank
goes
you so
ahead
much.
tonight. And thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Orla Minihane there, Reform candidate for Epping, saying it's just all about the parents. It's all about the kids. They just want to be able to make their thoughts known. If you're in Epping, we'd love to hear from you, obviously. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. It's a bit unclear at the moment whether the police are trying to stop the demo or whether they're trying to stop anyone who's not involved in the demo from getting to the demo, which if that's true, that's a complete reversal of policy then from the same police force that actually escorted people to it just a few days ago and who said they didn't do anything wrong. Extraordinary. This is the home of common sense. It's Morning Glory, 8:51.
With all due respect, I mean, as I say, I'm not a Labour or Conservative in any regards. You know, I was an independent before making this decision today. But the one thing I have learned over the last 15 years of politics is you can't trust a single word that Labour or Conservatives put down on a piece of paper. It may as well effectively be torn up and thrown in a bin. You know, unfortunately, what they've always said and what they've pledged has never come true. And Reform are offering a real viable alternative to this. Now, every idea is going to be criticised. You know this too well, doing the job that you did.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:53. Anna in Oakley says, where are Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper? Very good question. We'll be checking out the first live of the day, as it were, when Keir Starmer puts his first tweet out. He has put one out. It's something to do with migrants, I think. We'll tell you what that is in a moment. And this one from John. He says, Mike, great show, as per. Good to have a station that listens to ordinary people with genuine worries. I remember not so long ago where you could get a dentist and a hospital appointment, a house, jobs, low taxes, etc. Why do you think all of this went by the wayside? Can anyone tell me? Well, you know, some people will tell you that it was the mismanagement of the economy by various governments, both Tory and Labour, getting us into all sorts of debt that we couldn't afford to repay, doing all sorts of things during COVID that we shouldn't have done. But, you know, it's a long explanation. But we haven't got time for that right now because we've got to talk to John Mayer, ex-BBC producer and author of Is the BBC in Peril? Have you written that extra chapter yet, John? Very good morning to you.
Good morning. We must stop meeting like this. I've actually got a new book out.
Oh, have you?
In about a month's time, called The BBC After the Licence Fee. Do buy it. It's on Amazon.
Excellent.
Now we must stop meeting like this. Let's get this right. What choice did the BBC have? They had no choice.
Well, we're talking about MasterChef, right?
We are talking about MasterChef, putting the series out because they made the series, they paid the people did their jobs, so put it out. You know, people have done a professional job. You can actually skillfully edit out some of the presenters anyway. Look at the repair shop these days. Do you ever see Jay, what's his name, in the repair shop? You don't.
I don't ever watch the repair shop, so I couldn't tell you.
I do.
I mean, how can you fire two people, i.e. Greg Wallace and John Turode, and then put out a series with them both in it?
Well, they've done their job. I mean, where does all of this stop?
But why fire them?
How much do you cancel people ex post facto? I mean, if you're revealed to be a serial rapist, do you think Talk will cancel all of your shows?
Well, if obviously they'd give me a job at the BBC if that was the case, wasn't it? I'd be reading the news. But the point is that, you know, I agree with you. You know, either keep them on and publish what they've done, or fire them and don't publish what they've done. You can't really have this halfway house where you fire people for what they call disgraceful conduct and then promote them on a show. It doesn't make any sense.
This is not. They're not mutually exclusive. You know, they've done.
Well, they should be, shouldn't they?
No, you shouldn't. The cooks have done their work. The cooks have had their expectations. Everybody's done their work. Put it out. But, you know, you can skillfully edit it.
But then why have they been fired then? They've been fired because hang on, they've been fired because they are unsavoury characters, according to the BBC.
Well,
they have done things. They've done things during the filming of all of the stuff that we're about to see, which were untenable. Apparently, that's why they've been fired. So how can you show what they've been doing?
Look, you put out a health warning. MasterChef is bigger than those two, so you know you can make it bigger than those two. The other thing I would do, by the way, is make the new series, appoint new presenters and make a new series and put it out rather quickly.
Well, that would be better. I'd rather see that. And again, I don't watch MasterChef either, but I'd rather see that than see the sort of hypocrisy of the BBC, where they fire two people and then put out their work. It doesn't make it. It's not consistent.
If they binned it, Mike, people like you would be whinging on and be going, "You're wasting lifespan money." Well, why have you wasted all this money?
I wouldn't do that. If they binned it,
no, I see.
If they binned it, I would be in favour of that because I'm in favour of consistency, John. You know, if you want to fire somebody for doing something wrong, you don't then try and make money off the back of it, do you?
Well, where does this stop? How far back do you go? I mean, do you not show any stuff of Hitler because he was a nasty man? Do you know Hugh Edwards? Do you take him out all the wrong things?
You do. Yeah, absolutely.
You do. So would you?
He's a convicted paedophile, John. I don't really wish to watch the Queen's Jubilee as narrated by a paedophile. Sorry.
Well,
call me old-fashioned.
What would you get rid of it?
I would have it revoiced. I would have it revoiced if they want to put it in the archive. Have it revoiced by somebody who's not a convicted paedophile. How about that?
Well, no. Well, in that case, you're creating work for an awful lot of people. You know, it's a cancellation ex post facto is nonsense. It really is absolute nonsense. You know, they did their job. The cooks did their job. The format did its job. Let it go out.
It seems to me to be another example, John, of the BBC just getting everything wrong all the time. They just can't get anything right, can they?
Not in your view, you know.
Well, no, it's not in just my view, in lots of people's views. I mean, many people have said to me since the announcement they're going to put it out, I bet what happens is they'll do one episode, there'll be such a backlash from the public that they'll then drop the rest of it. And then they'll have looked at it even more idiotic.
Let's see what the audience is, shall we, Mike? Let's see if the audience likes the show more than the people.
Yeah.
I bet you it still gets an audience. I mean, John Turode is still on ITV, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to berate ITV for keeping him on?
Not at all. No, because I don't believe that he should have been fired in the first place. All I'm saying is, if the BBC wished to be considered to be a consistently, sensible organisation, you can either do it one way, you can do it another way. You can't do it both ways. You can't sack the guy and then say we're still going to, maximise our profit out of him.
Well, so you'd been the last series, you'd been the celebrity series, you'd been the Christmas special.
I'd been the whole of the BBC, to be honest, John, if you wanted me to answer that question. So you probably should best not go down that road. But there we are. Listen, we've got to run. Thank you very much indeed. John Mayer, ex-BBC producer. He's got a new book out called What Happens After the Licence Fee. Who knows what happens? I'm certainly not going to pay it for much longer, that's for sure. This is Morning Glory. We've got lots more to come. The place is blooming, absolutely blooming. It feels like spring, but it doesn't really, does it? It feels more like the winter of darkness. This is Talk.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 9. It is Thursday, the 24th of July, and we are here, ladies and gentlemen, for your delectation for another hour. Alex Phillips is filling in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. She'll be in just before 10 o'clock. We're talking about a great many things this morning, but to wit, mostly the front pages. 4-star fiasco is what it says on the front page of The Sun. Asylum farce goes on. Posh hotel taken over from migrants. That's the Britannia in Canary Wharf. Fury at cop escort for lefty mob. That's, of course, the ridiculousness of the Chief Constable of Essex Police, B.J. Harrington, bussing people in and out of the demonstration in Epping outside of the Bell Hotel, where local people, and we've just heard from one of them, are not happy about the illegal migrants being housed there, particularly since one of them has recently been charged with quite a serious sexual assault. He's pleaded innocent, of course, in a court in Chelmsford, but they say, the people that is, that it's been used as a migrant hotel for 5 years, and the crime rate in the town has gone up massively, and and they're not happy. You're watching pictures right now of something similar, another lefty mob balaclavaed up, covering their faces, being escorted around a hotel in Aldershot by the police in that part of the world. It's a shocking state of affairs. It seems now, though, that over in Epping, the Chief Constable of Essex Police has decided that actually what he did the other day was wrong, because he's now put a dispersal order around a demonstration that's supposed to take place later on today, and he's saying that nobody should come to Epping if they are trying to cause trouble, whether they be from the left or the right. We are considering the use of powers available to us to ensure people can carry out their democratic right to protest safely. Our message is clear. If you're planning to come to Essex to commit crime or disorder, don't bother. You will be dealt with. But this is clearly a big problem for the government, because on the front page of the Telegraph today, the police are saying, the Police Federation this is, that if there is a summer of unrest, of discontent, of rioting, officers who are forced to choose between local duties and tackling protests over migrants will simply be overwhelmed. They say that the riots last year after the Southport killings exposed the deep fragility within our public order policing system. The gaps were plain to see, mutual aid stripped to the bone, coordination between forces lacking, and a total failure to anticipate how disorder is now sparked and fuelled online. And that's the big story. Also, on the front page of the Daily Mail, this one's really upset people this morning. Asylum seekers gambling away taxpayers' cash. In the past year, over 6,000 migrants have used government-issued cards loaded with £50 a week at betting shops and casinos. 80,000 people casino cash machines. Absolutely extraordinary. Plus the doctor strike. That's starting tomorrow at 5 a.m. We'll tell you all about that as well. Ian Duncan-Smith coming up. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Joanna from Salisbury says that John Mayer, what a plonker they do the government, is to keep its citizens safe. Second, the Labour government bangs on about misogyny and keeping women safe is a priority. By letting all these unknown men into the country, they fail on both counts and are betraying the people of the UK. And the people of the UK are definitely on the march, it has to be said. They're not happy. They are very unhappy about the migrant situation up and down the country. Every single place in land has got a migrant hotel in it, and people are sick to the back teeth of it and fed up. Let's talk to Sir Ian Duncan-Smith MP, former Conservative Party leader, of course. Sir Ian, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Morning, Mike.
There is a sense, is there not, in this country that there is unrest afoot. The government have said as much. They've said that they fear that the country's fraying at the edges. I think it's all their fault, by the way. And they say that the police say if there is a summer of unrest, they're not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, there's no question this is the unhappiest I have seen, I think, the UK in a long, long time. Yeah. And it's all coming to a head. Yes, the migrancy issue is a major, major cause of this. It's the illegal migrants, and even, it has to be said, the way that people that are in the legal of what was going on up in Epping, where the police chief denied that any such thing of escorting these pro-migration people, who, by the way, I think are funded by the trade unions, I see.
Oh, I understand, and Diane Abbott's affiliated to them in some way.
Yeah, so all of that, it did seem to me very strange that the head of the police, the borough one, doesn't know what his own police are doing. So who gave the order out for them to be escorted? What they should have been told is, go home, do not make the situation worse, and don't try and stir up trouble. I mean, the fact is, we don't want to have lots of riots on these streets, no matter what the frustrations of people think. But it has to be said, the policy of the government, when they came in, they poo-pooed the idea of the last government's plan to try and ship people to Rwanda on day one when they arrived, which would get rid of the pull factor. And they said, oh, no problem, we'll smash the gangs. Well, how's that going?
Right.
They're not smashing the gangs, because the gangs can never be smashed in this regard, because they're abroad, and as soon as you get rid of one lot, the other lot take their place. The thing that really draws people are prepared to get onto these boats paying thousands of pounds that they have saved up to get onto the boats. So as long as they believe that when they get over here, they will stay here, they will keep coming. That's the pull factor. And the whole nonsense of the Rwanda plan being struck down by the courts tells you very much that the European Convention of Human Rights is not fit for purpose anymore. And by the way, we're not the only country that thinks that. France is talking about that. Germany's fed up with it. Italy's been talking about it. The reality is that we need to rethink this, because what's going on at the moment is mass migration into the European countries, and particularly into the UK. And unless you change the rules so that governments who are meant to be protecting their shores and protecting people, have the right to make decisions about not having them here, as Australia did, you will never get rid of this flow of migration, which is causing huge dissension and problems on the streets in the United Kingdom. So the cause is very clear, but the method of dealing with it by the Labour Party, Labour government, is remiss. It's not working. It never will work. And that means the pressure's on the police. The police are torn in one direction, then the other. And the result is the public are taking it into their own hands. So all of this is a consequence of having no policy towards migration.
Exactly. And when it comes to the ECHR, I mean, I've said this for ages, that, you know, plenty of countries in Europe who are signed up to it pay sort of slightly less attention to it than we do. You know, we seem to have a sort of a phalanx of human rights lawyers who are guided not only by its recommendations, but by every single word that it utters. Whereas, you know, Denmark feel free to deport people. I think they've even deported people to Rwanda before now. Germany has deported a load of Afghan criminals that they don't want anymore back to Afghanistan. Poland has shut down its borders to any new migration at all, asylum seekers particularly. Greece has just set up a detention centre in Crete and said if you come here illegally from North Africa, we will immediately detain you and arrest you, put you in a detention centre and then send you back. You know, so there's plenty of countries that are doing things that we're not doing, who are all supposedly still signed up to the ECHR.
Well, and the rules like right to a family life are very good when you're dealing with genuine migrants who are fleeing from persecution. But of course, this isn't always the case. And so the big problem we've got here is that the human rights law has led to a plethora of human rights lawyers who are basically taxi chasers, as it were, trying to get people to say, right, now you've got to sue the British government to stay here, and then they go through this prolonged process. Even if they do get sent away eventually, it's taken so long that the queue builds up. The answer for us, and I have to say the last government, I think, had the answer but didn't implement it in the end, is you have to say, which is every other country is talking about now and doing in many cases, these people have to be got away if they're going to be processed somewhere else far away from the United Kingdom, so that processing of their credentials can take place without them literally having achieved their objective of just getting here. And just getting here is enough at the moment. And look at these pictures. How dangerous is it as well for them to be paying all this money and then to get into a flimsy rubber boat, overcrowded, and you've seen children die in the middle of the channel, we've seen adults get into real trouble on these boats, the wind gets up, the storm gets up, half the boat are going to perish. This is not the right way to deal with it. So smashing the gangs is a pipe dream, I'm afraid. The only way you can do this is to get rid of the pull factor and stop people thinking that if they get here, they will stay regardless. That's got to stop.
Yeah. But the trouble is, the reality is, if they do get here, they will stay, and that seems to be the sort of the model. Yeah. And unfortunately, it happened more and more in recent years under the Tories. I mean, is there a chance that maybe the political establishment, and by that I mean, you know, both the Tories and the Labour Party, the former and the current government, get together and admit that putting these people up in hotels was a massive error, a massive mistake? It should never have happened.
It's been a disaster because the numbers have overwhelmed the last government and this government. And as I say, when you examine what's going on, you know full well, these are not people that are, by the way, borrowing a boat and trying to sail across on their own accord. These are people paying very significant sums of money. They're not, you know, they're not down and out sitting in these places. They've got money. They must have money because they're not going to be taken by the gangs onto the boats. So they're paying very significant sums of money to risk the crossing of the channel because there's one thing they know will happen. When they arrive here, they will be given a place to stay, support, food, some money, and there's a very good chance that because they'll have stayed here so long, they will never go back. Now that is a prize worth having if you're desperate to get out of France. And that's where the problem arises. So I would love to see the Labour Party admit that whatever they're doing does not work, and what they've got to now is rethink it and go back to the plan that we had, and instead of opposing it like they did when they were in opposition, actually recognise, maybe with the odd tweak or two, this plan could really work and revitalise that deal. I see that America's been sending people over to Rwanda now, occupying property that we actually paid for and built. So we should actually do something about it. If Parliament was prepared to get rid of the pull factor, then I think we could all work together on it.
I mean, I think there's also an element of truth to the suggestion that some people come on the small boats in hock for example, to the people smugglers, and when they get here, they then say owe them 5,000 quid or something, and they get kind of enrolled in some kind of gang, whether it's a sex a service gang, or whether it's a drug gang, or whether it's some kind of criminal operation, stealing phones or whatever. You know, I think there's a bit of that going on as well. So
there's no question there is, because when I was at the DWP, we broke up gangs that had brought people over to use their names to claim benefits.
Right.
They'd claim benefits, they were sent into chain gangs, as we saw in the cockle pickers that were drowned up in the northwest a few years ago, or else they're into prostitution, into the sex trade, simply because they have nowhere else to go and their families are often threatened at home. That is a parallel line that is being used by these gangs. The main item is that people mostly pay for this, but yes, you're right. Some of them are promised that they'll be able to work and pay off their debts, but in fact what happens is they don't get any of that money, and they go off into jobs that are pretty appalling.
Yeah, right. So what would you do with all the people who are basically here illegally? I mean, unfortunately, an awful lot of the Afghan contingent seem to be have come here under that new Afghan resettlement scheme. Many of them not actually really having credentials that said that they worked anywhere near the British Army, but just somehow got themselves on that secret list that was wrongly leaked. Can you deport these people, or are we stuck with them?
Well, I think that the rules should and can be very clear in this, and the reality is somebody is here illegally, then they have to go.
Yeah.
The problem for us, that's not actually the ultimate issue, because the issue is so many are here that getting through all these cases, trying to deport them, becomes a problem. And then there's the deportation issue. The present government has no plans to deport anybody on the scale that we're talking about here. It would be huge. And they tried it, by the way, with Albania, didn't they? Keir Starmer goes down to Albania expecting to be able to agree with this sort of giant of a prime minister they've got a deal. And the prime minister at the press conference turns around and says, no, we've got no deal. We're not taking these people back, which made Keir Starmer look a bit foolish, really. Now, my point is, the real problem is the government came in thinking, the Labour Party came into government thinking this is all easy, it's just, chaos induced by the last government. Only to find now this has got even worse and they don't have a plan. Smashing the gangs was a rhetorical device to get them through the election. It doesn't work, it's not going to work, they need to rethink. And the rethink is you've got to get rid of the pull factor. And that pull factor is that if you arrive here, no matter what, even if you are illegal, you can stay. And that has to go.
That has to change. I understand you've been in Ukraine recently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I was with a charity that's taking medical aid out, and the vans, ex-farm pickup trucks, which are no longer wanted to be used by the farm. They need them at the front line because they have to get their casualties out quickly and back in. So these vans are used by the Ukrainian military, and the medical aid that we had packed in the back of the vans was vital for bandaging wounds and helping people survive gunshot and terrible drone attacks. So I, with about another 8 people, I think, drove about 6 or 7 trucks down across Europe all the way to Ukraine, and then dropped them off in Kyiv, where I met a few of the politicians, some of the committees and some of the ministers concerned. I must say, things are pretty tight in Ukraine at the moment. Russians have been making advances. They're not massive advances, but there's a lot of casualties, and so the requirement for that medical aid was remarkable. And I thought maybe we should lead the way and try and help the charity concerned, which was Ukrainian Action, as other charities doing the same thing. But the British are peculiar in this regard. Ordinary British people have done this themselves. They've got up, they've found the trucks, they've organised to take them out there, they've raised money to pay for it. We are quite unique as a nation. When people genuinely need help, the British are there for them.
That's true. But a lot of people are now beginning to say, look, we haven't got any money. We're literally, up to our eyeballs in debt. We're paying we're borrowing, I think, £20 billion in June alone, pretty much 20 billion a month we're borrowing. Economists are telling me that we're heading for a serious, really, really major financial crisis if it carries on like this. And so people are beginning to say, can we really afford to continue to give billions and billions of pounds to Ukraine? And also, I was going to ask you if you encountered any of the demos that we're hearing about. We're hearing there are some demonstrations against Zelensky at the moment.
Yeah, I thought they were over-reported when I got back, because I was in Kyiv and I was in Lviv, where there were supposed to be huge demonstrations, and we were there and we didn't see the demonstrations. So I question really the scale of this. What's going on is a government attempting to try and find a way to get the process of chasing the corrupt individuals that run agencies or people that are taking backhanders, get them brought to justice and cleared out. I understand that. I think the timing of this is probably not helpful, because there are these organizations that are independent of government, and the government is saying we need to get hold of them so that we can chase, and others say, well, you're only trying to get hold of them so you can stop them going after government officials. It's a peculiarly, I think, misapplied process that when you're in there, you realize actually, in trying to do this in the middle of the war, it's very, very difficult. That's one thing I think they should have tried to backload until they've got a peace deal. The big problem, though, is that the pressures in Ukraine are enormous, because so many of the young men are now at the front. The rate of death and the numbers that have killed is quite staggering, really. I mean, Russia still keeps going. They've lost over 1 million people in casualties, but they keep on throwing people at the guns. So all of this puts huge pressures internally on people living there. You know, their wives, their daughters, their children and their sons are all caught up in this war. So tensions are running high. I hope that the government takes a pace back in Ukraine and says, do you know what, this is something we'll have to put back on the back burner until we've got ourselves free of this, and we'll stay with the systems we've got, but make sure they do a bit of a better job.
Sure. Ian Douglas-Smith, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Former Conservative Party leader there, talking about a great many things, including, of course, the state of play right here in this country. Let's get a voice note from Sharon.
Morning, Mike. Sharon from Yorkshire. Mike,
A lot of people. We've got a migrant hotel now being the subject of an awful lot of basically as to be used as a temporary accommodation for illegal migrants. We're going to talk now to Susan Hall, London Assembly member, former Conservative London mayoral candidate and leader, of course, of the Conservatives in the London Assembly. Susan, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
How
Good
nice
to see you.
Very nice to see you too. Sadiq Khan is remarkably quiet, is he not, on this whole business of the Britannia Hotel being taken over and used as a migrant hotel. He's far too busy putting out statements about Gaza and whether we should recognise Palestine. And he's also now got some kind of slavery memorial, which has been criticised because it looks a bit like a rotting turnip.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Jacob Rees-Mogg referred to it as a rotting turnip.
Right.
And I can understand that. But people are sick to death of virtue signalling, of their money being spent everywhere but on keeping us safe in London, as an example. Sadiq Khan has just come back from Africa. He goes everywhere else. Why doesn't he stay here and sort the issues out in London? And we have many, as you well know.
Yeah.
Mike. You're reporting on it all the time.
Absolutely right. And I mean, the problem with the migrants just gets worse and worse and worse. It's almost every single day now there's another story which has inevitably got a link to it in some way. Today they've got the story on the front page of The Sun about the state of play in Canary Wharf. A lot of people not happy that this rather nice Britannia hotel seems to have been taken over very recently, even to the point where people were turning up thinking they still had a room for the night, only to be told, sorry, it's been closed down. And then we've got the Essex police, which I know is slightly outside your remit, but the Essex police, you know, escorting, you know, what you might call left-wing agitators to a very peaceful protest in Epping by women and children and families who don't like the idea that their streets are being turned into crime-ridden alleys by a load of migrants.
Well, that's right. And there's so many different aspects to all of this. The one in London, for instance, if that is full of tourists, tourists are going to be out spending their money in the vicinity. And that's what we want. I mean, this government says it wants growth. My God, they're doing everything but things to encourage growth. And of course, if we have a whole load of young men, just men, moving into an area, it's very, very disrupting and very concerning. And it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse.
It really does. And the government doesn't seem to know what to do about it. I mean, we spoke to some of the mothers out there this week and they said, look, we just want Keir Starmer to come and talk to us. We just want Yvette Cooper to come and see why we're unhappy, you know, but they don't seem to care. They don't seem to give a stuff, you know. Instead, you've got, you know, Starmer this week, you know, getting Narendra Modi to come and visit him, another state visit, this time the Indian Prime Minister. And it's almost like he's blind and sticking his head in the sand when it comes to domestic problems.
Well, it's like all these Labour politicians. It's like Sadiq Khan goes everywhere else. They need to stay here and sort issues out here. The problem with Starmer and his government is they got in on a whole load of promises that they knew people wanted to hear.
Yeah.
They had no plans at all. I mean, granted, we got things wrong in 14 years. We also got a lot right, but we got things wrong. They had 14 years to make up plans, proper plans, funded plans for what they would do when they came into control. The minute they won the election, they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, that first budget was an utter disgrace. How anybody thinks they're going to get growth when they put a tax on jobs.
Yeah.
It's crowd cooking, and quite frankly,
it
ridiculous.
Really is. Yeah, but the good news is that apparently Rachel Reeves is looking for some new economic advisors. I was saying earlier, it's a bit late for that. She's already ruined the bleeding economy. You know, the fact that anybody's actually going to be left living here who's got any kind of idea at all of making a living is ridiculous. And the story I was highlighting earlier today about the cabinet is Angela Rayner. Do you know that she's now got a Deputy Prime Minister's department, which has increased by 34% in its business travel in the previous year? She's got people who have flown around the world. They've flown 319,872 miles, which is about 13 times around the planet. She's supposed to be the Minister for Housing. You know, apparently they've all been going to these housing conferences.
I know.
Right? What's going on?
Well, socialists only know how to spend other people's money. We all know that. And this is what they're doing. They didn't have any plans when they came in. If you look at the cabinet, I don't think any of them have ever run a business.
No.
Which is why we're getting these dreadful decisions being made that is just spiralling out of control, in my view. Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Well, she's got in her department alone, which is the Office for the Deputy Prime Minister, there are 30 people working in it. And what are they all doing?
Well, God knows. I mean, just giving in to her every whim.
Yeah.
I mean, she's apparently a very nice person, but she doesn't know what she's doing any more than any of the rest of the cabinet, I'm afraid.
No.
And they're proving that. They've been in control a year, and it's an utter disaster.
Yeah. Exactly right. And I mean, so to go back to Sadiq Khan and this horrible, awful, you know, memorial to slavery, £500,000 worth of taxpayers' money that's cost, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, when our Metropolitan Police are closing their frontline services. If you look at Harrow, where I live, and Hillingdon next door, we're going to have no desks where you can go and report a crime. That has just been released. Interesting, the list of the whole ones that are being closed has not been given. I've written to the mayor and to the commissioner. We don't know which ones are going, but the decision has been made. They are closing the front desks, which mean that people cannot go and report a crime. They have to do it online. Yeah. It's completely outrageous, and yet he spends money on that rotting turnip, as Jacob would call it, and I can see where he's coming from. I've heard it called other things, which is equally ghastly. But he should be looking at our Metropolitan Police, looking where to put money in, because it's taxpayers' money. It's not his money.
No, exactly right. But that's the trouble. He's got this incredible arrogance about him, hasn't he? I mean, I see every now and again, you obviously locking horns with him when he has mayoral questions where he consistently refuses to answer. That famous clip of you trying to ask him about whether there are any Pakistani rape gangs in London, and why is it that London doesn't seem to have any. And he just was so disingenuous and so slippery that he doesn't give value for money.
He won't answer questions.
No.
No, he doesn't. He won't answer questions. All he wants to do is to fly around the world.
Yeah.
He obviously wants some sort of job in environment.
I know. It's absolutely shocking. I presume he's probably going to go to the climate summit. Is he in Brazil? COP30, I think they're calling it. So no doubt it'll be out there wasting more taxpayers' money. But listen, your line's just breaking up a bit, Susan. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Susan Hall, London Assembly member, former Conservative London mayoral candidate. Let's get a voice note from Dave.
Good morning, Mike. Dave in Spain here. Just talking about this police commissioner, whatever he is, in Essex there. The way he spoke about it, if that be football fans, I mean, I've been a football fan, I've been to away games, and you arrive at the station, the police do escort you, but they don't escort you to meet the home fans, they escort you straight to the ground, out of the way. They do everything they can to keep the different groups of fans separate. So why are they taking anti-demonstrators, anti-protesters, straight in to meet the protesters? That defies logic and doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Well, that's exactly the bit that they've got wrong, isn't it? Precisely is exactly what they've got. I said this yesterday. It's a bit like taking, Millwall fans to Crystal Palace and dropping them in at the Crystal Palace end and saying, we'll come back and take you back to the station later on when you finish fighting. That's what they'd be doing. You wouldn't do it that way. Absolute bonkers. And, of course, they've proven that old B.J. Harrington got it wrong by now announcing that they've got a dispersal order in place from 2 p.m. this afternoon until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, which means that anybody who wants to come and demonstrate at the protest will not be allowed to do so. So despite the fact that yesterday he said everybody's got the right to protest and everybody's got the right to assembly. Apparently today everybody doesn't have the right to assembly because he says this order will not prevent lawful and peaceful protests but ensure that people are both safe during and after the planned activity. Where there has been previous protest activity, we have seen sustained antisocial behaviour in addition to any disorder that we have dealt with during the protest itself. Well, because you brought the people to the protest and therefore antisocial behaviour followed, you plonkers. We're also considering the use of other powers, say Essex Police, available to us to ensure people can carry out their democratic right to protest safely. Our message is clear. If you're planning to come to Essex to commit crime or disorder, don't bother. You will be dealt with. Which is very different from their previous policy, which was if you're planning to come to Essex to commit crime or disorder, we'll meet you at the station and take you right up to it. Thanks very much indeed. What's going on with these people? Kevin Birmingham says, Mike, I'm sick to death of these MPs constantly blaming the opposition. It's like being a fly on the wall in the headmaster's office, listening to two kids grass each other up. They think we're all thick with the age of X and YouTube. Information is now out there at the touch of a button, and those who would normally entrust MPs to run the country don't anymore. The public are now all enlightened, and that's very true. I was seeing things on X and Twitter over the weekend happening in Epping, which wasn't being reported anywhere. And that was why we were able to get ahead of the curve. We were able to play the video that we played just before Nigel Farage released the same video and said that this is what's happening and this is why the police need to be upgraded and this is why the B.J. Harrington, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, needs to resign. Absolutely right. No question at all. Colin says this from Portsmouth. If illegals, migrants are given these lovely new phones, then why do we use them to see where they're from? Surely we can trace the calls when they're phoning back home. Keep up the great work. Well, that's a good point. I don't know whether they're allowed to monitor them. They're probably not, are they? There'll be some kind of human rights thing going on saying, oh no, right to a family life and a free phone. It's 9:36.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It is 9:37. Quite a few of you have got things to say about the BBC and also, of course, John Mayer, who was on talking to me before. This bloke is the clear example of those who are part of the so-called ruling class of this country, waffling, making excuses and trying to defend the indefensible. The BBC is just one glaring example, but the same goes for the government, the police and the NHS, says Dave in South Gloucestershire. And Mike says Betty, the BBC is showing MasterChef because they need some ratings to justify their pay claims. Yeah, that's probably true as well. And Ian says, born in 1964, I remember being a kid in the late 60s, early 70s, going off to play in local fields, rope swinging over the stream, stickle-backing, going home when you got hungry, etc., etc. I wouldn't sleep if my grandkids now went off to do the same. No wonder young mums are so stressed when they aren't let their kids out of their sight. We don't want these immigrants shuffling around like a board game. We want them deported, says Ian. Yeah, absolutely right. And Lorraine says, about Epping, Yvette Cooper is a shameful excuse for a Home Secretary. Her silence speaks volumes. She is nothing more than a vacuous vessel who has failed at every level. Where is Jess Phillips, the minister who professes to support women and girls? As for Starmer, he is a disgrace. The government is failing the British people and they simply do not care. Lorraine, I think a lot of people would agree with that. Let's talk now to Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics in Chicago, Illinois, United States of America. Tom, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Donald Trump's preparing to arrive in the country in Scotland a little bit later on this week, tomorrow, I believe. He's expected to open up a new 18-hole golf course at Trump International and a memorial garden to his mother, Mary Ann McLeod. He's having a fair old time back in the States at the moment, isn't he?
It's been a crazy last few days. Yeah, this has been probably, he had this string of successes for a couple of weeks. He passed his signature piece of legislation barely through both chambers of Congress and got that signed, but also got hit with the sort of controversy over the Epstein files. And then just over the last couple of days, his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has been declassifying these memos and documents talking about the 2016 election and the Russia collusion hoax. And she was at the White House yesterday in the White House press briefing room answering questions from reporters about it and also laying out the case that this goes all the way back directly to President Barack Obama. And so it's been quite a last 48 hours.
Yeah, I've been watching it. We've got a clip here, I think, with Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, talking about the evidence about Barack Obama. Let's have a look.
The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
It seems a strange thing to have come up, doesn't it? I mean, why suddenly now are they going back to talking about the 2016 election campaign?
Well, I mean, the sort of obvious answer is they're trying to change the narrative. They want to talk about anything other than the Epstein file, because that's the real, I think, the first issue that Donald Trump has encountered where a majority of his supporters disapprove of the way he's handling that issue.
Right.
Everything else up until now,
because they just wanted to release the files, right?
Correct. They, and this is something that, Trump and his son, Don Jr., they talked about during the campaign. And then they got into office and his attorney general, Pam Bondi, said, look, I've got the file. I've got the list sitting on my desk and there are all these videos. And then they came out with this memo a couple of weeks ago saying, there's nothing really here. Let's move on. And Trump's been trying to sort of make the case that this is old news, that it's fake news, that it's been ginned up by Barack Obama and his minions when he was in office. And he's not really gaining any traction with those arguments. They don't really pass the smell test. But so now we have this controversy. And by the way, just because it's a distraction from that doesn't mean that it's not an important issue and not something that deserves, I think, looking into. And so that's obviously that's part of the explanation for the timing of this news story.
Sure. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump actually said about Barack Obama and the whole Russian hoax scenario.
The leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question, you know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
I mean, he's quite remarkable, isn't he, the way that he speaks? And nobody's ever really spoken about anything like the sort of international power politics like he does. Yeah. And they've also released information which says that they can prove that Hillary was basically having sort of psychotic episodes and that she was basically crazy while she was running for election. And they talk about, and they show that clip of her as she was getting into the van that time when she appeared to sort of collapse when they said that she was having, you know, she was just having a bad day because it was very hot or something like that, you know. But you know, if he goes down this road for too long, people are going to think there's something wrong with him, aren't they?
Well, you're right. I mean, look, this was classic Trump. You remember when Trump first came into office, he said, you know, Barack Obama spied on my campaign. And everyone said, oh, my God, Trump, that's, you know. Well, it turned out, actually, that was close to the truth. Yeah. I mean, there was. But initially when he said it, people said, oh, that's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's absurd. This is a kind of a similar thing, right? You know, I think as more gets released and we sort of dig through it, that we will find that, and it does appear clear that this was this new ICA, Intelligence Community Assessment, which was the foundation for the entire Russia collusion narrative that ended up leading to, you know, his impeachment, was directed by Barack Obama. I mean, the outlines of this case are that, you know, the intelligence assessment in December of 2016, so this is a month after Trump won, was that Russia hadn't interfered in the election. They did basically what they do every 4 years. This is kind of meddle around, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And that was sort of pulled and rejected, and a newest intelligence assessment was put in its place that said basically that Russia had intervened on behalf of electing Trump and against Hillary Clinton, and that, you know, the sort of darker piece of that was that Trump actually was colluding with the Russians, right? He was working with them to help steal the election. There was nothing to support that, and that all came at the instigation of, direction of Obama saying, look, I want a new intelligence assessment. So that part of it is true. Now, was it treason? No. And I think all of Trump's supporters who desperately want to see Barack Obama, you know, frog marched out of his mansion on Martha's Vineyard and thrown into jail in an orange jumpsuit are going to be disappointed. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. But will there be some accountability? I mean, it does look like John Brennan, for example, the former director of the CIA, might have perjured himself before Congress by saying that, you know, the Steele dossier had nothing to do with this intelligence assessment. Now we learned from one of these documents that he actually included it in the assessment, overruling two of his subordinates who said, look, we don't think this is up to snuff. And Brennan said it's staying in. And so there might be some prosecutions that take place as a result of this. But as far as it going all the way to Obama, that seems like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, right. And what about the state of America these days? You know, I used to live there many years ago when it was kind of, you know, relatively calm and normal. You know, you could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican, you know, you could talk in a restaurant, you didn't have to, like, you know, have daggers drawn at each other. You know, is this ever going to pass, this kind of period where there's such, you know, hatred from one side to the other, that they're constantly trying to blame each other for things that happened a long time ago, that, you know, some things might need to be looked at, but does, you know, it's almost like this kind of self-flagellation that goes on in the whole of society there.
Yeah, and look, this is a phenomenon that's been going on for decades. I think, you know, the advent of social media sort of poured some gasoline on the fire in terms of the tribalism and the partisanship. And look, our system, you know, the main change that's happened, Mike, is that people used to just disagree with the political. I still think you're a good guy. I just disagree with you. Now it's you're an evil person for believing what you believe. And both sides, when it comes to elections, certainly, but even on a day-to-day in terms of the discourse, believe that the other side is an existential threat to their way of life. And so the stakes have sort of, rhetorical stakes have risen. And so it, you know, and certainly the media has helped in that, the way that they've treated first Obama in a favorable way and now Donald Trump in a sort of negative way, and the loss of credibility. So, look, I think this is the new normal. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any putting that genie back in the bottle, and that's just the sort of times that we live in.
Sure. And what about Donald Trump's visit to Scotland? I mean, it's not a state visit. He's going to get one of those later in the year, so he's not thought to be meeting up with, certainly not with King Charles. And I don't know whether he's going to meet up with Keir Starmer either. But he's effectively coming to Scotland to open a golf course, which is kind of an unusual thing for a president to do, isn't
it? Not for Trump, though. There's nothing that Trump likes more than touring his golf facilities and taking the press on a tour of his beautiful golf courses in Scotland. So he's going to visit 2 of them there. And as you said, I think he's opening and christening a new course. And so, look, this is, again, unlike any president before him, this is what Donald Trump does. And so I think it'll be more of a publicity tour for him and his properties than any sort of, that's going to result in any sort of, big news or substantial policy announcement.
Right, sure. Well, we'll keep an eye. I'm sure there'll be plenty of protests here as well on that front too. Tom, very good to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics in Chicago. This one from William in Hawley. It's a great show as always, just referencing the lady who was travelling to Inverness. I don't know who she was flying with, but I used to work for British Airways and they introduced it. If you were flying and checking in a bag domestically, passengers would have to show a photo ID, not necessarily a passport, but photo ID anyway. Great show, keep it up. And Lynn from Yorkshire says, Susan Hall was complaining about police front desk closing. Our stations have been closed for 10 years. We have a police station just down the road from me where there's always marked cars parked outside, but the doors are locked. Everything has to be reported online. Yeah, well, I mean, I had a police station near me when I moved into the place where I live in South East London. It's not there anymore. In fact, I once went into it on the sort of last week of its existence to follow up on an interview that they wanted me to do because I'd had some shirts stolen. It's a funny old story, which I've told many times, and maybe I'll tell it again one day. And we were literally stepping over furniture, and the guy was like, "I'm really sorry, we're closing it all down," and it's now a block of flats. No police station to go and report anything to. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's get a voice note from Judith.
Good morning, Mike. It's Judy from Altofts, West Yorkshire. Have you seen anything as disgusting as the police escorting those masked protesters to where the protest is? I just don't know. If it were football supporters that kettle them to keep them all away, 2 sides from anywhere near one another so they couldn't throw missiles or whatever. I think Yvette Cooper has questions to be asked. I really do. And the police constables of them that sent the police to do this, they need firing. They really do. It's appalling. This country is just going down fast. Thank you.
Judith, thank you very much indeed. You're absolutely right. A little bit of breaking news on the migrant hotel front. This piece has appeared in the Eastern Daily Press, which is up there in Norfolk. The Park Hotel in Diss has apparently said that it won't accept single male asylum seekers, which is going to put the cat amongst the pigeons, because that's what the row's about, because they were supposed to be moving out a load of the women and children in order to place single male asylum seekers in the hotel in Norfolk. So they've said they're not going to do it now. So who knows? Maybe the protesters have won. Maybe it's the start of something. It's 9:50.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:53. Alex Phillips will be here shortly to tell us what's coming up on her show. Looking ahead to tomorrow, the doctor's strike begins in the morning tomorrow, 7 a.m. until 7 a.m. Wednesday. And we spoke to Dr. Lawrence Gurlis, GP at Same Day Doctor. Have a look.
Well, to be honest, Mike, I've actually changed my position for over the last 2 years because I don't want to be another middle-aged doctor who had a free education criticising these resident doctors. They do have a point. Unfortunately, they've gone about it the wrong way. They've turned it into this. The BMA is a very politicised union. It's not just about pay; it's about the whole career structure. There are doctors with over £100,000 student debt. They have no job security, and physician associates or physician assistants are paid £10,000 a year more than them. This is the fault of successive governments who have mismanaged the entire situation. And my view, for what it's worth, is that they should pay the doctors what they're asking, but take it out elsewhere in the health service. And if you want to see what's wrong with the health service, just have a look at what's going on at this industrial tribunal in Fife. That is a snapshot of what the health service is like, and multiply that 1,000 times all over the country. We can find this money within the current budget because there are lots of people who are slowing the whole system down. It's a dysfunctional system. The doctors actually do work very hard. They take huge responsibility. I've got a friend who's going on strike because he wants a few days rest. He doesn't believe in the strike.
Oh, that's nice.
But he's absolutely exhausted because of the pressures that he's working under. So look, it's a very difficult.
But hang on, but look, people are not made to be doctors, are they? People don't go out and sort of bang you over the head like some kind of press gang and go, right, now you're going to be a doctor for the next 7 years, and you're going to have a terrible time and you're going to hate it. People choose to do it, right? They must know. They're not stupid people. They've got a reasonably high level of IQ. They go and do the training that they need to do, knowing that will put them in debt, knowing also that they'll be paid reasonably well throughout their career to pay that debt off. So you can't suddenly tell me that they've woken up one Monday morning and gone, crikey, this is a lot worse than I thought it would be. They're idiots if they didn't find out what they were told wasn't right then, aren't they? I mean, I could tell you every day that I could wake up in the morning at 4:20 in the morning and complain that I have to go and do a job that I don't like doing and that nobody told me it would be this really busy and I might get tired and it might be exhausting. You know, you make up for it because you know that's your job.
Yeah, but the bullying in the health service, it's one
doctors
of the worst.
Don't get bullied in the health service, do they? Surely to God. I mean, bullies. The doctors are the bullies, aren't they?
No, not at all. Not at all. The junior doctors are believe it or not, bullied by the nurses and the female doctor. No, seriously.
Come off it.
Seriously. Because the doctors
What sort of wallies are these people then?
The doctors move every 4 months, so they're always the new boy or the new girl. And believe it or not, the worst bullying is female nurses against female doctors. Seriously, Mike.
That sounds mad to me.
No, trust me, Mike. Trust me. You talk to some junior doctors about it. The new girl comes on the ward. The female nurses say, "Oh, who's this?" They say things like, "I'm not going to bother to learn your name because you'll be gone in 4 months." That's a direct quote. Seriously, the hospital medicine is
well. If you get more money, that's not going to help, is it?
No, that's true. Money's just part of the problem. But I do sympathise.
I suggest some of them get a backbone and start working out that the real world actually might not be what it's like in a movie, and that sometimes you have to do things that aren't all that pleasant. And sorry if you don't like it, but don't worry, here's $100 grand a year.
Well, no one's getting 100.
Yeah, they are.
No, that's a senior, the most senior type of pre-consultant who does lots of overtime.
Are you telling me they don't get lots of overtime money? You're telling me they don't do any private work? You're telling me they don't get extra money for doing little, clinics here and there? Of course they do.
Not that the resident doctors don't.
You are well out of step, I'm sorry to say, Lawrence, with the entire country, because the entire country says they're greedy. They got 22% last year. They're topped up by another 4 or 5%. They've had 27% of a pay rise, which is an awful lot more than anybody else has ever got, including nurses, by the way, over the course of the last, several decades. It's ridiculous.
Look, you've known me a long time. The fact that I take up this is a very carefully considered position. It's a terrible, terrible job. And then a lot of them are then out of work. And then they go off to Australia, and then we import foreign doctors.
Breaking my heart, Lawrence. Yeah, Lawrence Girlis there, trying to make up for everybody else's distaste for this doctor's strike, saying that, they're quite justified in a way. He doesn't think they should strike, but he says you should feel sorry for them. I don't. Anyway, Alex Phillips is here. Very good morning.
My heart bleeds.
I know, seriously.
I mean, look, the thing is,